serving a deranged sovereign. He swung his sword like a blindly loyal hound, yet he received a cold blade from his sworn brother, a truly tragic end. Just as he thought everything had faded into nothingness, Ken found himself drifting in a strange space, and in the moment those heavy eyelids fluttered open, he had been reborn, becoming the youngest grandson of the very man who sent him to his grave. Now, the image of a loyal dog has completely vanished. In this place, he will seize his own destiny and become a true mad dog. The scene opens on a fiery and tragic battlefield, where a royal guard of slave origin has fallen while protecting an emperor who succumbed to a demonic pact. Will history remember his name as a knight loyal to his last breath, or was he merely a fool, a loser who failed to grasp the changing times? However, no rumor could ever satisfy me, for you are Ken later, the Emperor's royal guard. Just before Ken's soul faded, an enraged roar tore through space. Why did you drop your sword at the last moment? Why not disappear more gloriously? Ken, you fool. That was the rebel leader, Halo Reston. He smiled peacefully at his life's decision. I have lived 29 years as an orphan. This is my own choice. Do not look for a fight. My Lord Grand Duke. Ken's vision began to blur, and Halo's screams faded. You could have escaped. Why did you choose this path? Halo roared his name in desperation. Ken, open your eyes. You bastard. Wake up for me now. The night had passed away forever, leaving behind a Halo Reston, consumed by endless regret. The truth is, before completely sinking into darkness, Ken had cried. That damn Ken. In the eternal void, the soft sound of footsteps approached. Where am I? He walked aimlessly, questioning himself about this strange place. Amidst the vast and endless galaxy, he thought to himself, so this is what death feels like. Ken let out a contented smile. It seems the word freedom is not so grand after all. Oh well, that man can surely handle things on his own. So I will enjoy this so-called freedom to my heart's content. And don't forget to like Miss Manhwa to support my journey. A stream of blue light suddenly flashed from a spatial rift. Catching Ken's attention, the pure white halo began to spread. Then it gently moved closer to him. As the delicate light enveloped his body, a great change seemed imminent, and Ken could only wonder, what is happening? When he opened his eyes, a blonde-haired man greeted him warmly. Congratulations on your healthy birth, little Kajon. Father, would you like to hold the baby for a moment? Calloused yet steady hands reached out to embrace him. The baby isn't crying. Truly praiseworthy. While Kajon was bewildered. What in the world is actually going on? The man gently blessed him. Grow up strong and healthy. My youngest grandson. But Kajon needed only one glance to recognize him. Halo. He's much older, but that's definitely him. Amidst the joyous atmosphere, his first cry suddenly echoed. Oh dear. Did I make him cry again? Kajon still could not comprehend this ironic situation. No way. What on earth is happening? He curiously ventured an impossible guess. Could I really be Halo's grandson? In the heart of the bustling city, sacred histories were recorded. Knight Ken later, who fell in battle alongside the evil emperor 45 years ago. Although he could not prevent his master from straying, his image of unwavering loyalty is still honored and remembered by later generations to this day. The above are the latest interpretations from our modern history society. Young master, what are your thoughts? Kajon rested his chin on his hand, casually asking back. And what about your opinion? Teacher David. The tutor hesitated slightly. Yes, my lord. He began to present his personal understanding. Well, I believe the Grand Duke simply wished to restore the honor of his deceased friend. Because the friendship between Lord Halo and Knight Ken is a famous tale. The boy suddenly sat up straight with a mocking expression. Is that so? Causing Teacher David to become slightly flustered. What does the young master mean? He frowned and replied profoundly. I think grandfather still harbors a grudge against his late friend, which is why he deliberately gilded that name. And this boy is the 10-year-old Kajon Reston, third son of Count Fael, the eldest son of Halo Reston. Teacher David's face turned pale with shock. What is this kid saying? He stammered in his question. Young master, what do you mean by that? Kajon deeply analyzed Halo's past intentions. Grandfather couldn't accept that Ken chose death over joining him on the path of revolution. He ignored Ken's wish for a quiet rest, and instead turned him into a hero. David came to his own conclusion. A key at death, you say? In fact, there are records stating that the confrontation between the Grand Duke and Ken later ended too quickly. not befitting the skills of two great talents. Assuming Sir Ken chose death over fighting his friend, then this is a completely plausible argument. Kajon flipped through the pages and probed, "Isn't that right?" The tutor couldn't believe the child before him was so perceptive. How can a 10-year-old boy reason to this extent? But if I agree with this audacious thought, I fear the Duchy's knights will have my head for disrespect. And this thought made it harder for him to answer. Well, about that, David could only find a safe escape. I have never considered that aspect before. Kajan burst into delighted laughter at the tutor's obvious discomfort. He smirked playfully and clarified, "I was just kidding. Why are you so surprised?" After the lesson ended, he walked while pondering. "My current name is Kajan Reston. As everyone can clearly see, I am the youngest grandson of Duke Reston. And though it took some time to accept, the final conclusion is, I have been reborn as the grandson of Halo Reston, a man who truly doesn't know how to read the room, daring to turn me into a hero. There are things that need not be said, which you should have understood on your own." Kajan suddenly caught sight of his father's pensive back. "That man is Fael, Halo's youngest son. That is my current father." Kajan cleared his throat gently to bring him back to reality. Ahem. Fael heard the cough and turned to greet him. "Oh, Kayon, are you done with your studies?" Kajan nodded and asked with concern. "Yes, father. Are you praying again?" As expected, my father is still worried about his son's awakening ritual. Fael tried to evade with difficult words. "I'm truly sorry." "My son?" Kayon asked curiously. "For what?" "Father." He began to pour out his heart. "You probably know this already. Unlike your two uncles, I was unable to awaken my mana. Because of that, I always feared this genetic burden would fall upon you." Kajon stepped forward, gently placing a hand on his father's shoulder. "Father, no matter what anyone else says, to me, you will always be the greatest father." Fael's face flushed with embarrassment. "Kajon, you are the most wonderful son I could ever have." Fael pinched his son's cheek in happiness. "Oh, my dear son, let's go have dinner. Is there anything special you want to eat today?" Kajon answered decisively. "Meat. Of course." That night, a magic stone was levitating in mid-air. Kajon caught it and whispered to himself, "The awakening ritual." "Who?" His eyes flashed as old memories flooded back. "The awakening ceremony. What the hell is that?" Halo had explained back then that it was an ancient family ritual, a tradition to awaken the latent mana within one's body. He had shown disdain and indifference. So mana can be inherited with a golden spoon. Sorry, but I'm not interested in such nonsense. Halo patiently explained in more detail. Not everyone can awaken mana. And even if successful, it doesn't guarantee the right to become the family head. Furthermore, there's a world-shaking secret passed down only to the head of the family, which made Kajon more interested. A secret, you say? Like the location of a great treasure, or a grimoire that can grant wishes. Halo slung his sword over his shoulder, his face full of excitement. "So, are you starting to get interested now?" He glanced away to deflect. "Well, maybe a little. Like being able to live peacefully in some corner where nobody knows me." Halo's sigh angered him. "Damn it. You dare mock your friend's simple dream. I'm holding a weapon." "You know." Halo's sudden words caught his attention. "Very well. One day when I officially become the family head, I will make a special exception and tell you that earth-shattering secret." Returning to the present, Kajon sat quietly by the window. The ritual to awaken mana. That is the awakening ceremony. His whole body began to emit a brilliant light. "Father, you don't need to worry anymore." A torrent of mana began to flow from deep within his body. Kajon's eyes lit up with steely determination. The mana awakening ceremony. I completed that a very long time ago. Early the next morning at the station, the platform was bustling with people. One person marveled. "This looks so magical." And another replied cheerfully, "Yes, because this is my first time on a train." Lady Romea explained proudly to the boy. "Many of the techniques used to build this train were commercialized, all thanks to direct funding from your father," which made Kajon extremely excited. "Is that so?" While Fael was a bit shy. "My lady, you even told him that." She winked playfully at him. "No matter what you say, it is still an incredible achievement. You know that well." And Kajon fully agreed. "Of course, I am truly proud of my father." And those were my honest words. This man couldn't awaken his mana, and could only scratch his head and laugh. How embarrassing. But Kajon knew he was extraordinary. capable of single-handedly funding 30% of the entire Reston Duchy's finances, a father who deeply loves his family. Alongside a gentle and kind mother, Kajon formed his own judgment. They are indeed the perfect parents. On the way, the sky suddenly and strangely darkened. The train continued to speed along the tracks, heading straight for the finish line. Inside the carriage, the young boy stared blankly out the window at the passing scenery. Suddenly, an image caught his eye that made Kajon extremely curious. It was an ancient but incredibly sturdy and vast castle, and Kajon guessed that place must be the main estate of the Reston family. This gloomy and oppressive-looking structure is the Blue Sea Castle. He frowned, thinking to himself that it was the residence of that old man. He thought of the imposing figure of that man, Halo Reston, and Ken, in the body of Kajon, now possessed a will stronger than ever before. He smirked with a look of amusement. "Let's see if you still dare to look down on me." Old man, seeing the strange expression on Kajon's face, Fael tilted his head in confusion. He suddenly noticed a mysterious aura emanating from his son. In Ken's form, he had resolved, "I will make you pay. This very grandson will give you a splitting headache." And now in Kajon's body, he solemnly declared, the most arrogant member of the Reston family. He smirked, his eyes filled with extreme excitement. "Just you wait. Halo, the train continued to roll down the path of innovation, and your lovely grandson is on his way." A whistle blew as the speeding steam train officially arrived at the station. Kajon's family stepped off the train, followed by servants carrying luggage, and a man who had been waiting for a long time bowed respectfully. "You have arrived, third young master. It has been a while." Fael raised a hand in a polite greeting. "A year has passed in a flash, hasn't it? Are you well?" Butler Hirik, who replied gracefully, "Thanks to the blessings of the ducal family. I am always well." He glanced at the soldiers standing behind Hirik, and they were also watching Kajon. "Are those the Sea Wave Knights?" "They are." The group maintained their solemn expressions but huddled together, whispering, their eyes still fixed on him. "Could they have realized I've awakened my mana? They're certainly different from the knights in our territory." Kajon thought of the image of his past life's best friend. Now his grandfather. This news will reach his ears soon enough. But that doesn't matter. "Mister." Hirik led the way for everyone. "Well then, shall we go? I will escort you to the main castle." Fael picked up his suitcase and stepped forward. "All right, let's go." In a magnificent room, a maid respectfully said, "The Countess instructed you to wait here while she greets the elders. If you need anything, please call for us." He replied calmly, "All right, thank you." Kajon looked around in awe, unaware that someone had opened the door behind him. This is just a reception room. So why is it so spacious? He admired the splendid scenery inside the castle. "It's so boring here. I should have asked to be taken to the library." When a haughty laugh rang out. "Hoo-hoo-hoo." A boy stood with his arms crossed, his tone full of mockery. "Just arrived at the family estate, and you're already asking for the library. You're just like the rumors say. A total bookworm." He sneered contemptuously. "Well, it can't be helped. With your father's bloodline, the chances of awakening mana are very low, so you at least have to study hard. And if you want to madly chase money like the commoners, then you'll have to follow your father's example." Koyon fell silent. His face darkened, and he clenched his fists and advanced, which startled Leo. "What is it?" He grew angry, mana flaring in his hands as he threatened. Are you looking to die? Fine then. I'll use my mana to teach you a lesson." Kajon's eyes burned with a killing intent that seemed to want to devour his opponent. So this family is raising a prodigal son. Leo trembled before that overwhelming presence. "What is this?" His face turned pale, and he cautiously stepped back. "Could it be you? How is this possible?" Leo screamed in horror. "Impossible. When did you awaken your mana? Why haven't I heard anything about it?" He laughed triumphantly, his body enveloped in a dense aura of mana. "Of course, even my own father doesn't know." Kajon abruptly changed the subject. "Let's put that aside. The important issue now is..." He maintained a small amount of mana in his hand and said unexpectedly, He gave a friendly smile, gesturing with his hand. "Our family doesn't need two prodigal sons. Right, cousin? From now on, I will take on that role. So you should step aside." Leo took another fearful step back after hearing that. What in the world are you talking about? At that moment, Kajon was like a demon bearing its fangs and claws right in front of him. "Quickly follow Miss Manhwa, so you don't miss what happens next. To put it simply, please take this beating." My dear cousin. In another room, 4 people were gathered. So he's awakened. Hirik replied respectfully. Yes. All 3 knight captains who accompanied me confirmed it. The man rested his chin on his hand. I see. Raphael crossed his arms and questioned. He awakened his mana, but didn't report it to the main family. Is there something suspicious going on? This was the second young master of the Reston family. Raphael Reston. Fael's face darkened with suspicion. No way. Even I didn't know anything about it. Another person spoke up to ease the tension. Stop making wild guesses. Raphael. It's understandable that Fael didn't notice since he couldn't awaken mana himself. This was the eldest young master of the Reston family. Theo Reston. He grumbled with displeasure. Humph. This is just a mess. Suddenly, someone burst through the door in a hurry. Head butler. Please come quickly. He turned slowly to ask. What's all the rush? The man's face was grim. As he stammered, Sia. It's about... All 3 brothers turned to see what was happening. The man pointed to the room. The second young master. Raphael's face was dark, radiating killing intent as he strode in. The other man rushed after him to try and calm him down. Second brother. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. He was so angry, his eyes bulged, with veins popping on his forehead. Before him was the sight of his son beaten up, his face swollen as he lay sprawled on the sofa. He turned his head. Ah. Kajan bowed politely to greet him. Hello, uncle. But before he could finish, a large hand shot out. Raphael angrily lifted him up and shouted, You ill-mannered brat. How dare you? Kajan was taken by surprise. Oof. He raised his fist, intending to teach him a lesson. What were you thinking doing something like this? Fael rushed to intervene. Second brother. While Kajan explained. Ah. The thing is, his words made everyone freeze. Cousin Leo insulted my father. May I ask? Kajan exuded a dignified aura, retorting, If it were you, uncle, would you have been able to tolerate it? Raphael grew even more furious upon hearing this. This brat dares to make things up. The other man placed a hand on his shoulder to stop him. Second brother. Please stop there. He gritted his teeth. Shut up. Fael. In the end, this is all because you failed to raise your son properly. Fael stammered. About that, Hirik appeared just in time to cut off the argument. Everyone. Please stop. He calmly relayed a message. The family head has said he will pass judgment himself. The eldest brother gritted his teeth and pulled his younger brother away. You heard him. Right. Let go. Raphael clicked his tongue. Damn it. The servants quickly escorted Leo away. Fael helped Kajan fix his collar. Are you all right? Kajan. He replied obediently. Yes, father. I'm fine. Hirik turned to leave. Then we shall go. But Raphael didn't forget to glance back and glare. HMFT. Fael helplessly patted Kajan's shoulder. Come on. Son. Let's go. He frowned and replied. Yes, father. It's been a long time. They walked together down the long corridor. Halo. The man smirked with a slight smile. Halo placed his hands on the table, exuding the authority of a superior. So what is the reason you caused trouble the moment you arrived at the castle? Fael hurriedly waved his hands to explain. Father. This time it was, but he was cut off. I wasn't asking you. Fael. Halo stated his position. I want to hear the answer from your son's own mouth. I know he is not one to act rashly. There must be a reason. Tell me clearly. Kajon judged silently. So even if you punish me, you want to hear the reason first. Feigning tolerance. Are you? About that? He spoke directly without a hint of hesitation. Because cousin Leo insulted my father. Raphael's face flushed with anger. That's nonsense. Are you not going to tell the truth? He slammed his hand on the table and roared. Shut your mouth. Raphael. You dare raise your voice before me like that? Seeing his father's anger, he knew to back down. Mi apologies. Father. Halo moved on to another topic. We can verify this by simply summoning Leo. Hirik. Has Leo's treatment been completed? He answered respectfully. Yes. Family head. Allow me to bring him to the study. He turned to look at Kajan. There is one more thing I want to ask you. As if he had already guessed, he answered firmly. If it is about my mana. I awakened it 3 years ago. This answer stunned everyone. 3 years. Halo was very pleased but still had questions. Then why is it that until now, even your own father knew nothing? He awakened it on his own 3 years ago. This kid, Kajon began to explain. At first, I just happened to discover it while reading, and only later did I realize it was mana. And by that time, he couldn't help but be curious. And then what? He scratched his head, smiling sheepishly. I just wanted to keep it a secret. Having a secret makes things more interesting. The knights in our territory didn't know either, so it was even more fun. Halo clasped his hands together, a little let down. So it was just as simple as that. Kajan maintained his innocent look and smiled. Yes. A servant opened the door and announced, Lord Leo has arrived. He walked in with his face heavily bandaged. He asked, Kayan said you insulted your youngest uncle. Is that true? All eyes in the room turned to Leo, making him flustered. Well, about that. He seized the opportunity, sobbing, I'm sorry, grandfather. Even though cousin Leo insulted my father, calling him a lowly money grubber, who has no right to succession yet acts so arrogantly, a useless failure. He jumped upon hearing this. Kajan continued, I still shouldn't have hit him. I have made a terrible mistake. This act made Leo tremble with fear. I didn't say all that. He was so terrified that his nose started running. He turned back to look, his hand already clenched into a threatening fist, which scared Leo to death. Hick. He maintained a calm demeanor and asked, Is what Kajan said true? Leo. He didn't dare to defy him and had to agree. Yes, that is correct. Halo rubbed his temples. Himp. I see. For now, since the awakening ceremony is tomorrow, the punishment for you both will be postponed. At night, the castle was still brightly lit. That is all for today. Everyone may withdraw and rest. Outside the window, voices echoed. Hirik, what do you think of Fael's son? Hirik replied, From what I see, there are quite a few points that might draw the family head's attention. He agreed. He is indeed very interesting. That boy awakened on his own 3 years ago, and kept it completely hidden until now. Halo raised his wineglass. Moreover, he's implicitly questioning the skills of the knights I sent to Fael's territory. It's as if he's hinting that I'm underestimating him. Hirik seemed helpless. I think you're overthinking it. Family head. He took a sip of wine. I hope so. But there's something very unusual about this boy. Halo placed the glass on the table. If he's truly that special, we'll find out tomorrow. He rose from his chair. Just awakening mana isn't everything. Halo glanced out the window. What's important is whether he can complete the ritual smoothly tomorrow. And if he succeeds, what he will receive from it. The bright moonlight shone down on the castle. I am truly very curious. Night fell, and the forest became deserted, with not a soul in sight. Something was speeding towards a source of light. It approached a pit deep in the middle of the forest. A stone was emitting a mysterious and enchanting blue light. Darkness enveloped the Blue Sea Castle, and the entire forest was plunged into absolute silence. Halo led the way, followed by his subordinates and his children and grandchildren. While following Halo closely, Kajan curiously observed the members of the Reston family around him. He easily sensed the mana emanating from them. Though they've withdrawn from politics, I can clearly feel that every one of them is a supreme master. Kajan continued to observe the other members like the family's eldest son and his daughter, Leonor, and also Raphael, the second duke, along with his son Leo. He then smirked to himself. With the whole family gathered here making such a fuss, this must be far more important than I thought. Everyone stopped in front of a large rock. The surrounding mana was now noticeably denser than before. Light. He quickly identified its source. Could that be the wishing lithoid? As he took out the necklace, Halo spoke up. Let's begin the ritual immediately. He slowly explained to the children. When you step through the spatial rift opened by the wishing lithoid, you will see a world that this stone has chosen specifically for you. Fael showed clear impatience while Kajan listened attentively. They say each person sees a completely different world from the wishing lithoid, and the ceremony only ends when you use the weapon obtained there to destroy that world. Waiting for him to finish, he politely nodded. Yes, grandfather. Halo's gaze never left him, and it held even more hidden meaning than before. Then, he brought the pendant close to the wishing lithoid. Good. Do your best. The moment their surfaces barely touched, a very distinct reaction occurred. Magic shot straight up into the sky from the stone pedestal, forming a protective barrier around it. That source of power continued to grow stronger and stronger. Standing out in the dark forest, Fael and Kajan slowly opened their eyes, astonished by the dazzling light before them. Halo stood before the spatial gate and asked, What are you waiting for? Kayon. He too was worried for him. Kayon, are you really okay? He gently touched his father's hand to reassure him. "I'm fine. Father, I'll be back soon." He walked forward with absolute confidence. "I have to use a weapon obtained there to destroy that world." The corners of Kajon's lips curled into a smug smile. "Too easy." Then his body slowly passed through the spatial gate. "Because destruction is my specialty." Just before that, Halo suddenly looked very expectant. "Kayon, overcome your own fears." He turned to look at him with a puzzled expression. "Overcome my fear." After Kajon fully entered, the gate automatically closed immediately. He was quickly transported to a completely strange and dark place. The scorching heat and blazing red fire left him stunned. "This place is..." The desolate and ruined scenery reappeared right before Kajon's eyes. The bewildered young man walked along the familiar path. "Why is it?" There, a few soldiers were barely breathing, leaning against the city wall. "Are you showing me this memory again?" Kajon's mood sank heavily. "You want me to feel guilty for the teammates who died in vain?" When he looked up, he saw a glimmer of light from a distant door. The steps leading straight to the throne. A chillingly familiar voice sounded at the same time. "A harsh, desolate world. O child of the Azure Dragon." The space behind the door suddenly turned a fiery red. "The time of the pact has come. I am here to fulfill the promise made to your ancestors." Those shiny leather shoes gently stepped onto the stairs. Still wet with fresh blood, Kajon's eyes widened at the mysterious figure, and he exclaimed, "A demon." The creature continued to speak. "The blood flowing in your veins cannot be touched by a lowly demon." He used all his strength to push open the massive door. "Overcome your fear and step up to the throne. What you desire lies there." The first thing that caught his eye was a deep red stain on the floor that hadn't been cleaned in a long time. Not far away, a few faint rays of light shone in. "There's something on the throne. The throne that the Emperor risked his life to protect, even to the point of making a pact with a demon like me." As he moved forward, the space behind him gradually shrank. "I never knew my comrades, and I had to die for this rotten throne. It feels like I'm walking on the corpses of my brothers." The voice of the demon race sounded again. "O descendant, bearing the blessings of the cold North Sea, even if your soul is lost, hey, congratulated Kayon. You have finally arrived. On behalf of the Azure clan, I welcome you." His face suddenly darkened. "That is..." Kajon's past life memory was triggered by the image of a sword. "That is your weapon." He himself was greatly surprised. "The beloved sword that the Emperor had once bestowed upon me. The Blood Seal Demon Sword." The demon began to urge him. "Channel your mana into it." Kajon replied in shock. "What? That's a demon sword. It will devour the user's soul." The voice calmly reassured him. "The lingering resentment within it was long ago purged by your grandfather. What you see is just a distorted and grotesque remnant. Awaken that sword? Boy," he insisted. "Only you can awaken it." Yet Kajon was still a bit hesitant. "Is it really okay for me to touch that sword?" His palm secretly clenched. "What if I become a soulless puppet again, only knowing how to kill on the Emperor's command?" The image of File flashed and interrupted that train of thought. "Overcome your fear." Kajon. He gradually realized something and smiled. "So that's how it is." It's rare to see Halo being so unexpectedly gentle. Kajon made up his mind and approached the demon's sword. So the real purpose of the awakening ritual isn't to find a weapon, but to make the heir, the one who has awakened the Azure Horn, confront and overcome the fear deep in their heart. His hand reached out, towards the familiar hilt. In that case, the moment the young man touched it, his mana was violently drained by the sword. His eyes widened as a numbing sensation shot through his mind. His body suddenly fell into a pool of clear water. Is this the Azure Horn? The Blood Seal Demon Sword was right beside him. The form of the Blood Seal. The pure water was slowly washing away its impurities. "I don't know why it chose you in this form, but..." The distance between it and Kajon gradually narrowed. It was originally the sword of the founder. Rain. He was forced to hold it with both hands to keep from sinking. The sword your grandfather obtained was also the founder's sword, but it was completely different. Cajon himself had to endure another violent shock. Because the power it possessed was completely different from the family's bloodline, the young man clenched his eyes shut, trying to grit his teeth and bear the bone-deep pain. Everything suddenly returned to its original state, surprising him. What is this?" The mysterious figure reminded him. "Indurate. The mana in the sword is being inscribed into your body." Though his face was drenched in sweat, he still looked excited. "The mana in my body has become much more intense. a single sword possessing such terrifying power. Kajan carefully examined the sharp blade. The azure horn is truly a marvelous thing. So, what is the true name of this sword? He quickly answered his question. A sword that has slain countless demons, devouring their power. A sword that even demons flee from at the mention of its name, to the point that history has had to erase all records of it. A blade born from the deep northern sea, a place of darkness, but also of immense purity. The light reflected on its blade was incredibly sharp. Severing blade. Gai Loatin. Kajon seemed captivated by it. Severing blade. Gai Loatin. The mysterious figure spoke. A sword as black as the abyss. It suits your destiny well, young man. At this point, he became a bit curious. By the way, who are you really? Kajan ventured a guess. You are of the Azure clan. Could it be? You are the Azure Dragon, the guardian deity of our family. But he denied it. You are not yet worthy to speak my true name. Then it made a request that made him sigh. If one day you can master the sea, come find me in the North Sea. Kajon raised the gay Loatin and shrugged. All right, now, how do I get out of here? He replied. You already know the answer. His attention then shifted to the throne. As I thought, the sword was swung with Kajan's utmost excitement. Wonderful. I've wanted to do this for a while now. Then he decisively unleashed a powerful slash to destroy it. Outside, everyone was still waiting. Fael's anxiety was evident in his actions. Halo noticed this and reassured him. Don't worry too much. Fael. He hesitated. My apologies, father. He nodded. Watching your child walk a new path is certainly not an easy thing. I understand that feeling. Halo gave stern advice. But that's precisely why you must remain even more composed. He then gave a faint smile. Yes, father. Leo was the first to exclaim when he noticed the movement. The wishing lithoid. It's cracking, he hurriedly reported. Grandfather, the wishing lithoid is breaking. This made Halo turn to look in astonishment. What? Just a second later, the stone had split into two pieces right before their eyes. He covered his face and exclaimed in shock. What in the world is happening? The person they were waiting for had returned, along with his weapon. Who? Kajon rubbed his head in confusion. Have I really returned? The corner of his mouth twisted into a crooked smile. Where did the wishing lithoid go? The family members were stunned into silence by the sight. After fumbling for a moment, Kajon noticed the fragments at his feet. He said hesitantly to them, The wishing lithoid. Did it break? Fael's face turned pale with shock. Kajon, what on earth have you done? How dare you break the wishing lithoid? The young man deliberately feigned ignorance as he turned to look at Halo. Grandfather. He didn't scold him but was startled by something else. He recognized the object in Kajon's hand. That sword is the severing blade Gay Loatin, the executioner's sword of our ancestor, Ryan Reston. It had been erased from the family's history, or only passed down orally between the family head and the elders. So why? Not just him, but the other masters present also took notice. Why did it appear here? Halo immediately questioned him. Kajon, you. Could it be that the time of the pact is drawing near? Meanwhile, he was admiring the Gay Loatin. Are you not afraid of that sword? Kajon replied so decisively that it surprised him. No, not at all. Halo accepted that answer very quickly. I see. Then Halo began to reminisce about old stories. A very long time ago, our ancestors were unable to fulfill the pact with the Azure Dragon, a pact to wipe out the demons flooding in from the ends of the world. They left behind the wishing lithoid as a testament to that pact, entrusting their vow to the future, waiting for a special person to appear who could fulfill that pact. Could it be that Kajon is the one chosen to inherit that pact? He ended his recollection by raising his hand to the sky. Halo Reston. The subsequent declaration was truly shocking. I declare Kajon, son of Fael Reston, an official member of the Azure Sea Fortress, the direct descendant chosen by the Severing Blade, and worthy of inheriting the Azure Spirit's secret art, Raphael blurted out in anger. I can't believe a brat like him received the Azure Spirit's secret art. DM Tro silently assessed the situation. Severing Blade Gay Loatin. Who? Meanwhile, Fael worriedly checked on him. Are you injured anywhere? Kajon replied obediently. The more he thought, the more suspicious he became. I thought I knew all the weapons passed down in the family, but I've never heard of that sword. In his eyes, the aura it radiated was truly formidable. Besides, just a glimpse is enough to send a chill down my spine. Nevertheless, he insisted in front of them. Fael, your son is walking a path you have never set foot on. But I will never let that position be shaken by a variable named your son. As dawn broke, Halo quickly gave them orders. The awakening ceremony is over. Let's return. They hadn't taken more than a few steps before Raphael called out loudly. He asked indignantly, "Are you just going to stand by and let this happen?" Theo understood his intention and replied, "Perhaps we will need to have a private conversation soon." The other man immediately nodded. "All right, that's good," Theo thought to himself. "Even someone as excessively greedy as you is realizing the crisis, aren't you?" Raphael also changed the subject. "By the way, do you know of a sword called the Severing Blade?" Despite his reluctance, Theo had to admit the truth. His anger flared up. "Eldest brother, I truly cannot understand this situation. Why did it have to be Fael's son?" He turned his head to look forward. "The important thing now is," they all looked towards Keijon and his father. "Now is not the time for us to be divided." Time flew by, and a new day began beautifully. It was time to go to the train station. But Fael was still a little uneasy. "Are you really okay staying here alone?" He replied resolutely. "Yes, father," Hyrik added. "Is there any place safer than the Azure Sea Fortress?" He suddenly forced a smile. "That's true. If we're talking about external threats, it's very safe. But what I'm worried about is..." Raphael and Theo suddenly became worries in Fael's mind. The danger from within. Of course, with father here, I don't think they'll act rashly. He coughed a few times to get Fael's attention. "Third, Duke." Hyrik added a few reminders. "The person entrusted with teaching young Master Keijon the Azure Spirit's secret art is Lady Sabina." Upon hearing that name, he immediately recognized her. "Oh, it's her." Fael's tone brightened. "If it's her, I'm even more at ease." Keijon also took note. "Sabina. If it's her, then definitely." He frowned slightly. "Sabina Reston. Halo's younger sister. Famous as a master, no less skilled than him. Wasn't she once known as the White Wolf?" Then he carefully instructed his son further. "She dotes on me. So Keijon, you must absolutely not be disrespectful to her." The young man obediently nodded. "Yes, father. I will do my best." After that, Hyrik spoke up again. "And one more thing. A message from the family head." Fael looked surprised. "From father." The relayed message deeply moved Fael. He said he will prepare a residence for you in the Azure Sea Fortress, so you can visit any time. He couldn't help but quickly wipe away a tear. "Is that true?" "Father." He quickly regained his composure. "I can leave without any worries now. Thank you very much." "Hyrik," he replied politely. It was a small matter. He gently patted his son's head for a little longer. "Take care. Keijon. If you need help, just contact me anytime." He happily followed the advice. "Yes, father." The train finally departed, taking everyone back to their homes. Keijon was led up a tall tower by Hyrik. Escorted by the Seawolf Night Squad, he slowed down a bit and urged him, "Let's go. Lady Sabina is waiting." Keijon reacted quickly. "We can't keep her waiting." But just before that, he suddenly spoke to him. "Excuse me, but may I offer you some advice?" Keijon graciously accepted. "Yes. Please speak," Hyrik seriously warned. "Lady Sabina hates being called ma'am. It's best you avoid that word." The young man nodded in understanding. "I'll remember that. Thank you for the reminder. What's wrong with calling my grandfather's sister, ma'am?" After that, they walked through a sturdy city wall and set foot in a new land. He took the initiative to introduce, only direct descendants of the family are allowed to enter the training chambers in this Azure Sea forest. "Lady Sabina is waiting. Please enter." "Young Master." He suddenly remembered something else. And young Master Leo is also present there." Upon hearing that, Keijon had a few ideas. "I get to be with cousin Leo too," Hyrik carefully added. It seems the second young master personally requested it of Lady Sabina. They stopped there, and he waved goodbye and quickly continued on. "I'll be going then." That small but energetic figure caught his attention. Hyrik gently pushed up his glasses and smiled. It's been a long time since it's been this lively. As for Keijon, an overwhelming mana was flowing out from the entrance. His vigilance was raised to the highest level. "I can feel such immense mana just by standing outside." While he was thinking cautiously, a voice came from inside the house. "Why are you still standing outside? Come in." Because of that urging, he quickly pushed open the door. "Keijon Reston, son of Fael. I am here to present myself." The moment he stepped inside, the young man was completely astonished by the sight before him. She glanced over. Well, are you surprised that I don't look like what you imagined? Even though she was sitting, a powerful noble aura radiated from her. Kajan Reston, son of Fael. Sabina looked at him with incredibly sharp eyes. I never thought you'd be the son of the adorable Fael from all those years ago. Time flies. On his side, Kajan's lips kept twitching. Did she regenerate her body with mana? Does that mean? No. That's ridiculous. It can't be. The realm of an 8-star knight. The moment Kajan entered, Sabina's cold voice rang out. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and sit cross-legged. Her voice continued to echo, startling both Kajan and Leo. You can sit next to Leo. He immediately went to his seat, turned to Leo beside him and chuckled. We'll be seeing each other often. Let's get along. Brother. Sabina sat opposite them, saw their expressions and lazily inquired. I never thought I'd hear the title, White Wolf, from a child like you. Hearing this, Kajan immediately replied cautiously. I read about it in a book. Sabina sighed at his cleverness. What an interesting child. Just as my brother said, Kajan showed no signs of panic or worry and continued to face her and inquire, May I ask what grandfather said about me? Sabina coldly recalled Halo's arrogant demeanor when talking about Kajan and recounted, He is a child that makes people like him. That's what he said. And now I understand why. Then, her eyes seemed to gleam as she remembered Halo's true words. This is a child who will have to cross the ocean. Help this child, so that one day he can rule the entire sea. Sabina's face became more serious as she reflected on his instructions. I must become a lighthouse to guide Kajan. Sabina silently observed Kajan's entire body and aura and exclaimed, just a glance. But this child's potential is truly immense. Fierce, vast and endless. It could be called the potential of an entire open ocean. She couldn't help but think of great waves. Vast oceans when thinking about him. Right now he's like an untamed, fierce wave. Sabina relentlessly assessed Kajan. He has great potential to master the ocean. She stared at the two children sitting seriously opposite her and playfully thought to herself, who would have thought I'd meet such an interesting child here? Immediately after, she stood up from her chair and slowly approached them. Let's begin. The cross-legged posture you are in is the most basic foundation for practicing mana. Sabina gently rotated her wrist and explained seriously. Once you have passed the beginner stage, you can practice mana without having to sit cross-legged. Immediately, she unleashed her mana with incredible force for the two of them to witness. Sabina's mana power erupted and shot straight towards Leo and Kajan, surprising them both greatly. Kajan regained his composure and stared intently at Sabina. Is this Azure Sea mana? Sabina then gradually withdrew the surrounding mana. She chuckled and seriously explained. The technique to dominate the Azure Sea is actually a method to master the sea. Using Azure Sea mana, you can create and operate an ocean within your own body. Looking at the two sitting seriously opposite her, Sabina continued her lecture. The more oceans you can operate, the stronger you will become. When you can operate 8 oceans, you can reach the 8-star realm, and the stage of operating 8 oceans as one vast sea is called the 9-star level. Kajan listened attentively and seriously to her every word. In this entire continent, only 3 people have achieved it, and in the Empire there is only one. Sabina chuckled when she mentioned that person. The only person to reach the 9-star level on this continent is your grandfather, and also my brother, Halo. Hearing his name from Sabina's lips sparked a fierce determination in him. Halo, in this life I will definitely catch up to you. Sabina was startled when she saw the determination in his eyes. This kid, is he even craving power? Then, she smiled with great interest. An interesting child. This training session will be very fun. Inside the secluded academy in the forest, a serious voice echoed. Let the mana flow through the meridians opened by the awakening ritual. Leo and Kajan concentrated intensely on their practice under Sabina's guidance. The power of the sea is not to be controlled, but to be integrated with. Kajan slowly felt the fierce waves churning inside his body. He gradually felt the hardness of each wave. Then, each wave began to accumulate and was released from his heart. Sabina was startled to see sparks of magic emanating from within Kajan's body. She frowned sternly and assessed the area around him. Is this the mana of a child who has just completed the awakening ritual? Then, she turned to look at Leo, who was also concentrating on his training beside her, and lamented. He who was taught the Azure Sea domination technique 2 years ago has only just begun to aim for the 2-star level. Sabina once again stared at Kajan with a hint of doubt. Kajan is carving his own mana meridians. even though I haven't taught him how to do that yet. Kajan continuously felt the changes in his body. I feel like my body is about to be torn apart. Hearing his unusual sounds, Sabina stared at him with suspicion. Is he self-condensing? Is his body starting to feel the pressure? While she was lost in her thoughts, something caught her attention. He even knows how to regulate his own body temperature. Leo, beside them, completely lost his strength and collapsed heavily on the floor. Startling Sabina, she immediately rushed to support him and scolded him slightly. I told you not to force yourself to operate your mana beyond your limits. Sabina looked at Leo's condition and blamed herself a little. I was too focused on Kajon and forgot that Leo is also just a child. She was still lost in her thoughts. That's why an adult like me has to be here, to prevent them from harming their own bodies. Kajon, seeing this from behind, muttered in admiration. You are truly terrible. Sabina glanced at him and silently assessed. This child is very aware of his own limits, and stopped his training on his own to avoid overexerting himself. She looked very seriously at Kajan and continued to assess him. At this age, he can still maintain his composure, control himself, despite always yearning to become stronger. Looking at his indifferent face, Sabina's eyes unconsciously turned cold. Brother, this child doesn't need a lighthouse. Immediately after, she approached, stood before him and seriously called his name. Kajon. Sabina's face was serious as she made a promise. For 3 years, I will ensure your absolute safety. Amidst his astonishment, Sabina continued to give orders. For the next 3 years, focus on building your strength to protect yourself. Kajon, still completely bewildered, unconsciously accepted her request. Yes, Lady Sabina. At that moment, a group of people were training enthusiastically on the field. Zeras looked at their fighting style and shouted angrily, "Don't just carelessly swing your swords as if you're in a real fight." Soon after, he noticed a group of people who had just appeared on the training ground. At that moment, Leo and Kajan slowly walked onto the training ground. Leo hesitantly looked at the sword in his hand and asked, "Are you planning to use that sword for practice?" He was confused by Leo's question and asked back, "Is there a problem?" Then, Kajan seemed to get angry and snapped. "Everyone says it has a fierce aura, so I had to keep it in the scabbard grandfather gave me. Are you still not satisfied?" Seeing him so angry, Leo quickly waved his hands. "No, that's not what I meant." Just then, Zeras approached and cut off their conversation. "Welcome, Kayon." He stared blankly at the tall man in front of him. "Is this Zeras?" Seeing his confusion, Zeras explained, "I will be in charge of your swordsmanship training." Kajon, his face full of dignity. He continued to introduce himself. "I am the commander of the Sea Wolf Knights. Zeras. You can just call me Sir Zeras." Kajon's face showed both surprise and joy. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Sir Zeras." Just a glance is enough to tell he's at the 3-star level. Zeras stared at him and said bluntly, "I will not call you the Duke's grandson. Only when you are recognized by the Sea Wolf and Azure Wolf Knights." Hearing him say that, Kajan wasn't angry at all but simply shrugged. "Actually, that makes me feel more comfortable. I'm not used to this title of Duke's grandson." His voice continued in a steady tone. "I also understand the rest and family tradition of earning the respect of the Azure Wolves with one's own skills." Zeras was a little surprised by his calm attitude. An interesting reaction. Most of them showed dissatisfaction. Then he turned to look at Leo, which confused him greatly. Young Master Leo is no exception. He stared at Kajon, thinking incessantly. Has the truly wise heir finally appeared? At that moment, his face wore an incredibly fierce smile. It made both Leo and Zeras suddenly feel a little scared. Seeing Zeras' frightened expression, Kajan couldn't help but think to himself, "In the end, they will all have to bow before me." The 3 of them stood motionless in the middle of the vast training ground, each with their own thoughts. Could there be someone even worse than me? 3 years later, at the Azure Sea Fortress, a man leisurely enjoyed a glass of wine. Sabina held the wine glass, repeatedly exclaiming, "As expected, brother's wine is the best." Halo looked at his sister's antics and whispered helplessly, "Isn't it time you stopped stealing my wine?" Sabina, hearing that, she became a little sullen, glaring at her brother. "How can you speak so coldly? I've been teaching your nephews for 3 years just because of your request." Halo seemed to be in deep thought, his face contemplative. "Has it really been 3 years?" Then, he suddenly asked a probing question. "After all this time, what's your impression of him?" Sabina was a little surprised by Halo's question. "My impression," her voice, like a declaration, echoed throughout the room. That kid is a true monster. Halo savored the wine in his hand, hesitatingly asking in confusion, "You're so comfortable calling my nephew a monster?" The guard standing beside them was also a little embarrassed, because even the word geniuses is an insult to him. At that moment, Halo turned to Xerus and continued to probe. Hearing this, his face immediately became serious. After observing Keijon for 3 years, I must say I completely agree with Lady Sabina. His analytical voice continued steadily. Physique, natural talent, training attitude, determination, and courage. Everything is absolutely outstanding. Xerus very seriously affirmed Keijon's talent. This kid is far superior to the eldest young master, who is rumored to be a genius. Halo's face suddenly darkened and turned cold when he heard this. "You mean Theo's eldest son?" He looked straight at Xerus, as if waiting for a confirmation. A talent even more outstanding than Hugo, who is considered #1 in the entire nation. As soon as Xerus's confirmation was uttered, Sabina chimed in with a radiant smile. "If this isn't managed well, this family is going to be in an uproar." "My dear brother." Halo was a little confused by her teasing. "What do you mean?" "Sabina." She dropped her playful demeanor, staring at her brother with great seriousness. "Think about how Keijon will affect the succession, and what your sons will think of him." Halo picked up the wine bottle, pouring it into the empty glass in front of him, while analyzing his sister's words. "You're saying my sons will be in danger because of him. Right now, everything is still under control. But when this news spreads throughout the Empire, who knows what will happen?" Hearing that, Sabina was a little confused and angry. "Isn't it clear enough? This will affect the succession and what happens after." Halo's face was grim, looking incredibly terrifying in response to her question, which made Sabina flinch slightly. Soon after, she let out a long sigh, her tone much softer. "Now that the wishing lithoid is broken, is our family coming to an end?" The number of sea monsters crossing the border from the north has also suddenly skyrocketed. As soon as Sabina finished speaking, a voice tinged with anger snapped. "Nonsense." Halo looked at her seriously, disagreeing and explaining. "The one who broke the stone will also create a new one, just like our ancestors did long ago." Sabina suddenly smiled meaningfully. "I've never heard that before. Is that a prophecy passed down to the eldest grandson?" He didn't refute Sabina's words, and explained, "It means the time of the pact is drawing near." Sabina's sharp eyes flashed, looking straight at Halo. "Our dear youngest is about to shoulder a lot more responsibility." Sabina continued to ask Halo, "So when are you going to tell Keijon?" He thought for a moment and explained, "When the time comes. Father, I hope everyone is well. First, I apologize for not being able to visit home yet. Training has been too busy. The weather has turned cold recently, and you're very sensitive to the cold. So please remember to dress warmly. I have recently mastered the 4 spirits level of the Azure Spirit Secret Art and the 4th form of the Azure Wolf Swordsmanship. I am also trying to get along with everyone in the family as you instructed, especially with Brother Leo. I have been taking good care of him. Oh right. I have a small request. I've run out of spending money. Could you possibly send me a little more?" Fail couldn't help but laugh indulgently as he read Cajon's letter. He gently placed the letter on the table, exclaiming in happiness, "Hirik, you know, I still clearly remember how worried I was about Keijon at the Azure Sea Fortress 3 years ago." Fail's voice was full of joy, but he adapted incredibly quickly. Hirik, seeing his delight, also felt happy and remarked, "Thanks to the young master, the Azure Sea Fortress hasn't had a single quiet day." Fael, as if remembering something, became thoughtful and sighed. "I've told him so many times that standing out too much isn't a good thing." Hirik immediately explained to console him, "But gold will shine wherever it is." But soon after, he changed his tone to a more serious one. "But perhaps things are about to change. They can't keep the information about Keijon within the castle forever." Hearing this, Fael seriously asked Hirik, "You mean he's now able to take on missions?" He immediately explained, "That's right. He must complete the missions assigned to him as a member of the Azure Wolves." Fael then began to voice his worries. "I'm concerned that my 2 older brothers won't be pleased to see Keijon's influence at the Azure Sea Fortress growing day by day." Hearing that, Hirik smiled faintly with some relief. "I can only say one thing about that." Hirik chuckled and said with affirmation, "Lady Sabina cares deeply for Keijon." Hearing that, he let out a sigh of relief. "That's right. She's there too." Then, Fael chuckled, turned to Hirik and explained, "Keijon has been telling me in his letters for 3 years but having you confirm it again makes me feel much more at ease." Hearing his reaction, Hirik laughed. "Lady Sabina has always been very concerned about you, hasn't she?" Upon hearing this, Fail sighed helplessly. "Perhaps the monthly allowance I send has helped in some way." Hirik glanced at him and joked, "Seeing you joke like this? You must be much more at ease now." Fail's face suddenly turned serious. He turned to Hirik and asked, "But she still hasn't left the Azure Sea Fortress." Realizing the worry in Fail's heart, he explained, "You don't need to worry about that." Seeing the confusion on his face, Hirik immediately explained, "Kajon has built a very strong relationship with the Wolf Knight squad at the Azure Sea Fortress, to the point where the Knights even gave him a nickname, although it's a bit disrespectful." When that nickname was mentioned, Fael was also completely speechless. "I've heard about it. The little mad dog of the Azure Sea Fortress. That's it, isn't it?" At that moment, a fierce training battle was taking place on the Azure Sea Fortress. Kajan continuously unleashed powerful blows against his opponent's wooden sword, causing it to shatter instantly. Han, holding the broken wooden sword, spoke helplessly, "Kajon, stop. I surrender." But Kajan looked at the shattered sword in his hand and pondered, "Han, why did you let me hit you just because my sword path was off?" Kajon's face was cold as he stared at him and questioned, "Don't you know that the Azure Wolf swordsmanship becomes meaningless if you exert less force than your opponent? You have to counterattack strongly. Why are you so weak?" Han stared blankly at his angry face and explained, "I think only you would dare to call me weak." Kajon ignored his words and continued to reprimand him. "Your muscles are like a deflated balloon." Han was even more bewildered and confused by his words. "I've never heard anyone say that before." Kajon immediately pointed to himself and laughed confidently. "I just speak the truth that no one else dares to." He looked at Kajon's antics and explained, "Even without magic, I would still lose to you. It wasn't this bad last year." Soon after, he looked at Kajon and whispered, "You're about to be sent on a mission." Hearing that, he was also very surprised. "Where did you hear that?" Han thought for a moment, his voice hesitant. "I only know that Xeris will decide when to deploy the mission." In place of the family head who was in the capital, Han looked at Kajan with some concern and continued, "It's probably to the granary in the western part of the duchy. Monsters have been appearing frequently recently." Upon hearing he was going on a mission, he became excited, turned to the training ground next to them, and shouted, "Cousin, we're going on a mission." Leo, who was training, lost his focus upon hearing Kajan's voice and thought, "I really don't want to go on a mission with Kajan." His training instructor, seeing his lack of focus, reminded him, "Lord Leo, you are in the middle of a sparring match. Please focus." Leo then looked seriously at his instructor, but in his heart, he couldn't help but scheme, "Perhaps father and mother would be very happy if I could successfully complete this mission." Inside the study, Fael looked sternly at Hirik and said, "Hirik, I didn't summon you here just because of Kajan's letter." Hearing that, his face showed surprise. "Is something the matter?" He then handed a pouch to him. "Take a look at this." As Hirik held the pouch to examine it, Fael continued to explain, "The family's inspector found it in a cart from Baroni, Belos." As soon as he put his hand inside to check the contents, Hirik was also momentarily stunned. Fael's face was stern and cold. "Those are drugs. Can you investigate Baroni Belos from the Azure Sea Fortress?" Hearing this request, he fell into a serious and thoughtful silence, staring intently at the object in his hand. Under the quiet night sky, the train slowly pulled into the stations. A man silently stepped off the train. A probing voice was heard. He stood in the shadows, staring at the towers and whispered, "So this is the Azure Sea Fortress." The night sky was quiet, the full, bright moon shining down on the rooftops below. On the vast castle grounds, guards holding torches patrolled the area. A figure lurked behind a wall, secretly peeking out. Kajon swirled the bottle in his hand and said, "Stealing from Xeris' collection is always so thrilling." He laughed cheerfully and walked away. Even in a child's body, how could I forget the taste of wine? Kajan froze when he saw the figures of two strangers. Who are they? Their faces are unfamiliar. The two were walking and talking when he suddenly appeared. Is the Duke really away? This is urgent. Yes. He has gone to the capital to have an audience with His Majesty. For now, the Knight Commander is handling everything. Hey! The two of them stopped and turned to look at Kajan. "Ah, young master, why are you here at this hour?" "This is Lord Rohan, the second son of Baron Belos. He said he has an urgent matter to report to the Azure Sea Fortress. The youngest grandson, so he must be the son of the third Duke, who was struck from the succession list. I think I've heard that he has awakened his magic and is being trained at the private residence. His name is Kajan Reston. It's an honor to meet you. I am Rohan Beulus. But he turned his face to the side and said to the person next to him, then just tell me. But perhaps it would be better to report this to the Knight Commander. Who? Isn't anyone going to say anything about a kid holding a bottle of wine? Kajan calmly continued, which made Rohan pause. Usually, just sending a representative is enough. But for you to come all this way, it must be urgent. Right. Then a noble must personally step up to handle it properly. Seeing this, the other person also bowed his head and replied, I understand. I will report it privately to Commander Zeras. Good. This kid is no ordinary young master. To have such political judgment at such a young age, but that wine bottle is still bugging me. He turned to look at him and asked, shall we go? Rohan looked a little worried and thought, is the Reston family always like this? He's so young and already drinking wine. Under the starry night sky, the house radiated a warm light through its window panes. In short, the problem is, inside the quiet room, two figures faced each other. The bandits are occupying the eastern mountains of your territory. Right. Yes, that's correct. Cajon gently swirled the wine bottle in his hand and asked, and since their appearance, drugs have started to spread, and villagers are being taken as slaves. Yes, it's shameful to say, but our Bellows territory is poor. The terrain is rugged, and we have no notable products. For a whole year we haven't had a decent army, so we are completely helpless in dealing with them. My father couldn't stand it anymore, so he led our small force to suppress them, but we suffered heavy losses. My father was seriously injured and is now bedridden. Is it all my fault? My incompetence has caused my father and the people to suffer. Cajon suddenly slammed the wine bottle on the table, creating a loud crash that startled him. Cajon's face was filled with fury. He gritted his teeth and growled, those bastards deserve to be torn to pieces. He quickly regained his composure, but his voice was still full of doubt. But there are still some illogical points. I mean, how can a bunch of petty bandits fight against a regular army? Rohan waved his hand, looking uncertain. I don't know either, but I suspect they are deserters from the war in the Southern Kingdom. Cajon rolled his eyes in thought and muttered, I see. After the Mad Emperor was dethroned, the Imperial Army was downsized. Most of the forces were concentrated in the south due to the war, so there was no strength left to worry about the north, creating a security vacuum. He rested his arm on the chair and continued, deserters turning into bandits. That seems to be the most logical explanation. Yes. Cajon picked up the wine bottle and excitedly said to him, you must be in a bad mood. How about a drink to clear your head? Without giving Rohan a chance to react, he poured the wine into the glass on the table. You may not know, but the Bellows territory borders my father's land, so this is not something I can ignore. If I have the chance, I would also like to personally lend a hand. He picked up the glass and replied, thinking to himself, thank you for your kindness. But, should I drink what a kid gives me? Cajon's next words made Rohan jump. By the way, I stole this bottle from Commander Zeras' collection, so let's keep it a secret between us. Wait. Zeras, the commander of the famous Azure Wolf Knight Order. The door suddenly burst open. I thought we had an agreement that you wouldn't touch my wine anymore. Rohan scrambled to his feet and explained, Mi apologies. Sire, I meant no offense. You are the young Baron. How could you know about this? Don't worry about it. I've heard that the bandits are causing you no small amount of trouble. He replied awkwardly without looking directly at him. Yes, that's right. That's why I came here. To sincerely request the Azure Wolf Knight Order's assistance. Before he could finish, Cajon burst out laughing. Zeras then turned and snatched the wineglass from Cajon's hand. I told you, you're too young to be drinking. My wine. He turned back to Rohan. My apologies for letting the young Baron witness such an unsightly scene. He quickly waved his hands and replied, it's all right. Zeras seriously began the conversation with Rohan. You've come to the right place. The Azure Sea Fortress will not ignore the difficulties of an old ally. Hearing you say that gives me great relief. He added to reassure Rohan. We have already prepared forces to dispatch to the Bellows territory, so don't worry too much. Hearing that, Rohan was overjoyed and thanked him profusely. Thank you, Sire. What a relief. I finally have good news to report to the people. Kajan suddenly interrupted the conversation. Lord Zaris, I will go too. He immediately rejected his request. Absolutely not. The enemy is trained. We don't know if there are any masters hiding among them. Rohan's eyes widened in surprise, thinking to himself, what? That kid wants to go too. Even though he's being trained at the private residence, he looks to be only 12 or 13 at most. His expression became incredibly serious. I acknowledge your progress, reaching the 4-star level and mastering the 4th form of the Azure Wolf swordsmanship in just 3 years. But real combat is a completely different matter. He closed his eyes, his voice showing clear frustration. Keeping me cooped up forever won't do any good. I'd rather send you to the west. Facing a known danger is better than an unknown one. I will not let you risk facing an enemy of unknown scale, strength, or location. Hearing that, Kajan became even more excited. He smiled playfully and said, so what if I make you an offer you can't refuse? And you guys can't refuse to like Miss Manhwa either. Can you? Kajan suddenly clutched his stomach and giggled uncontrollably, leaving the other two frozen in confusion. Leo had an expression of disbelief as he asked, why me? He stood beside him and cheerfully patted his cousin's shoulder. Come on, cousin. Cheer up. This is our first mission after all. Zira stood to the side, observing the two of them, and sighed silently. I've been tricked. This kid dragged Lady Sabina into this, and she just stood there with her arms crossed, exclaiming, ooh, these kids are so cute. He turned to Sabina helplessly. Wait, maybe this is for the best. They'll have a reliable guardian with them. She was still busy admiring the two, remembering her first mission. I was just as excited. Zaris glanced back at the kids, perhaps because young Master Leo agreed to go. With this condition, he must be satisfied with their training progress. Rohan stood to the side, observing these 4 strange people. Lady Sabina, the legendary White Wolf, but no matter how strong she is, they are still just 2 children. Will this be okay? Kajan said excitedly. I'm really looking forward to this trip. If the Duke's grandson comes to any harm, my entire family will be held responsible. What if they get seriously injured? He stepped forward and patted Rohan's shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry. What you're worried about won't happen. He quickly turned his head. Commander Zaris. He spoke to ease Rohan's worries. With Lady Sabina accompanying them, the 2 young masters will not be in any danger. Yes. Oh. About that. Zaris. Her voice made both Rohan and Leo's faces change. Unless the children are in a life or death situation, I will not intervene. Hearing that, he quickly retorted. I know you believe in their growth, lady. But... Sabina cut him off. You know it's not just that. Don't you, Zaris? As expected. My dear aunt is always so bold. She smiled faintly and added a meaningful sentence. There's another reason why I can't directly intervene. He had no choice but to close his eyes and agree, which felt like a lightning strike to Rohan. Yes, I understand if that is truly your intention. Sabina looked at everyone, her voice full of authority. It's about time, isn't it? Seeing that Leo was still frightened, she could only let out a sigh. Sabina then broke the silence. It's understandable that Leo is nervous. He turned to her in confusion. Lady Sabina. But... She smiled gently and explained, while reassuring Leo, consider this an opportunity to prove how hard you've worked over the past 3 years. A chance to be recognized as an official member of the Azure Wolves. He unconsciously repeated Sabina's words with emotion. An official member of the Azure Wolves. Leo suddenly regained his usual composure, which made Kajan glance over in surprise. Yes, he didn't forget to tease his cousin. Cousin, do you always need someone to kick you in the butt to get going? Shut up. Are you okay? Kajan smiled and walked forward. All right. Where's our spot? Leo followed closely behind, being determined in his heart. I know. His expression became serious and sharp. I always knew the day would come when I had to prove myself. A loud announcement echoed through the space. The magic train from the Azure Sea Fortress to the Bellows territory is about to depart. But the train began to move, leaving the magnificent Grand Castle. I didn't expect that day to come so soon. The train sped past the dense green trees. A top-secret mission. Sabina sat inside the carriage with her arms crossed and explained, damn it. The fact that I secretly came to the Azure Sea Fortress is already a top secret, so I can't just show up openly. The moment I reveal myself, the mountain bandits will disappear without a trace. You don't want that to happen. Right. Rohan awkwardly avoided her gaze. No. White Wolf. He still maintained a worried expression as he looked at the two children. But is it really okay to leave everything to these two kids? One of them has a blank face, looking like he doesn't know what worry is. Didn't they say this is his first mission? Rohan shifted his gaze to Leo, and the other one is as tense as a drawn bowstring. He rested his head against the window with a sorrowful expression. Leo, I really don't understand what's in your head. How could you get involved with that brat Kajan? Have you forgotten what happened 3 years ago? Remember this well. He is not your friend, but your enemy. 3 years ago, he disgraced you, bringing shame to your father's honor. And yet, you still laugh and talk with him as if nothing happened. Is your brain just for decoration? If you have a mouth, try to talk back. You truly are a man without ambition. Leo broke out in a cold sweat and replied softly. Mother, I'm sorry, but there's no rivalry between me and Kajan. What? He became bolder as he continued. Even the brilliant genius Hugo had to wait until he was 14 to reach the 3-star mark. Yet Kajan reached the 4-star level at 13. Compared to him, I'm 15 this year and have only just managed to reach the 3-star level. Can't you see how big the gap is? Kajan might be a goal for me to strive for, but to be his rival? I really don't stand a chance. Leo's mother glared at him with sharp eyes. Leo, you must get rid of that inferiority complex. This isn't an inferiority complex. Kajan's existence is the motivation for me to strive even harder, so that I can confidently walk on my own 2 feet. She closed her eyes and let out a helpless sigh. Leo, you really are. You really only see the tree and not the whole forest. A warm voice pulled Leo back to reality. Leo Reston. Yes. Ma'am. Is it that hard to shake off the tension? He stammered in reply. Yes. That's right. Well, this is your first mission after all. It's natural to be tense. Sabina's next question left Leo speechless. But at this rate, will you be able to bring yourself to harm others? Kajan also groggily woke up from the noise. But you're overthinking it. You don't need to doubt yourself. I know better than anyone how much sweat and effort you've put in over the past 3 years. After all, I'm the one who trained you. Right. Leo also relaxed his body and smiled in reply. Yes. Master. That has a nice ring to it. The announcement speaker crackled to life. Sabina stood up from her seat. This train will arrive at the Baron Bellos territory in 20 minutes. For this mission, let's call each other Master and Disciple. Yes. Master. White Wolf. Where are you going? She went to open the window. If I show up at the Baron station, the news will spread immediately. I'm ditching first. Rohan exclaimed in panic. But, White Wolf, the train is still moving. Sabina climbed outside, startling everyone. Little Baron, from now on, just call me Lady Sabina. What? No. But, Kajan sat there calmly watching. See, Master is as crazy as ever. Before leaving, Sabina didn't forget to reassure him. My nephews will be lurking around here, so don't worry too much. Lady Sabina, with a whoosh, she launched herself into the air, leaving the 2 men with their eyes wide in astonishment. Rohan panicked and screamed into the empty space. Lady Sabina, while Kajan sat to the side, laughing with delight, the 2 men were sweating profusely. What in the world? Why is everyone in the Reston family so damn crazy? He sat on the bed, his hand covering his mouth as he coughed continuously. Cough, cough. My health is not good. I hope the young masters of the Reston family will forgive me for receiving you while seated. Please don't mind. Seer, how are your injuries? He sat up straight, leaning on his cane, and reassured the children. They said I'm out of critical danger. Thank you for your concern. I don't know if young Master Kajan still remembers, but I met you and your father 10 years ago. You've grown up so remarkably. Lord Raphael must be very proud. Kajan shyly scratched the back of his neck. Please speak naturally. Seer, I'm not used to formalities. They just make me uncomfortable. Hearing that, the Baron asked cheerfully, if you really feel uncomfortable, may I call you young Master Kajan? He also happily agreed. That would be much more comfortable for me. Baron, he continued to ask curiously, having received your first mission, you must have reached the 4-star level of the Seha school at a very young age. Yes. My cousin, Leo, is still lagging behind at the 3-star level. He's clearly not a warrior, yet he knows so much. The Baron laughed heartily and continued. Anyway, the family head must think very highly of you two to send you here. And because of that, I feel guilty for having to assign such a dangerous mission to two promising young men. Kayon replied resolutely. I understand the Baron's feelings. But if we fail, wouldn't we tarnish the pride of the Azure Wolf? We have no intention of failing. He then turned to ask Leo, which made him freeze. Right. Cousin. Who? Yes. We will definitely complete the mission. The Baron coughed again, quickly covering his neck. Thank you for saying that. Rohan stood to the side and asked with concern. Father, are you okay? Seeing this, he chose his words carefully and said, It seems the Baron needs to rest. We should take our leave. Well then, I'm counting on you. Your guide is already waiting. Just follow him. Yes. Amidst the vast and majestic snow-capped mountains. Hey, Kajon. He turned to look at Leo with a challenging expression. What is it? Are you already tired? Leo asked a question that made Kajon pause for a moment. Not really. But can we trust this guy who's suddenly a herbalist? Leo voiced all his doubts. Even if he's the terrain-savvy guide sent by the young Baron, there's no guarantee he isn't one of the mountain bandits. He smiled in relief. So you finally decided to use your brain. He answered him. You're right. That old man is probably one of the robbers. Hearing that, Leo was only slightly surprised. What? How did you know? Kajon put on a serious face to explain to Leo. Based on my conversation with the Lord when we first arrived at the station, he asked back in confusion. What? What conversation? Back at the station, Lord Rohan, how do you plan to track down the bandits' hideout? He stammered in reply. Well, we'll have to use a traitor within the territory. He put his hands on his hips, the corner of his mouth curling up slightly. Use a traiteur. You mean, what an excellent method. Back in the present, that's roughly the story. Then why didn't you tell me? So I would know. Kajan's answer made Leo freeze in his tracks. Because you've been as tense as a drawn bowstring all day. About that, I can't believe the Lord deliberately planted a traitor with us. He's quite the sly fox, keeping a traitor close to use him as a weapon against his own kind. Hearing that, his smirk grew wider. Exactly. The fact that the old man has been walking free all this time says it all. It also means they're at their wits' end. That's why we're being used as bait right now. Noble young masters passing through the Baron's territory to the neighboring region. A perfect scenario. Right. If they manage to kidnap us, they can demand a hefty ransom. He walked straight ahead while warning Leo, who was dawdling behind. It looks like they're about to spring the trap. A group of fully armed men suddenly appeared, blocking their path. The short, fierce-looking man handed Sven a bag of money. Well done. Sven, since you're the boss's nephew, I've added a little extra. Thank you. One of the men pointed directly at the two and said, Boss, these pampered young masters don't look like the obedient type. Kajon stood calmly in front of Leo, his voice full of contempt. A parasite like you, his eyes suddenly glowed, carrying a thick killing intent. Dare to deal in contraband in my father's territory. Kajon rushed forward, relentlessly slashing at the bandits with his sword. Blood splattered everywhere, freezing Leo in place. Sven lay sprawled on the cold snow, tears streaming down his face in terror. Monster. He stared in horror as he watched him fight the robbers. His face gradually darkened. Kajon is a true monster. A man standing on the outer circle was unlucky enough to be hit in the face with blood. He panicked and said to the man next to him, Boss, I don't think these guys are small fry. Maybe we should retreat and report to the main unit. Damn it. He became even more aggressive after hearing the advice. I'll never lose to a wet behind the ears brat. Captain. He rushed towards Kajon, shouting, Let me teach you a lesson. You brat. He leaped high into the air, raising his two weapons, his entire body radiating killing intent. Without flinching, he countered with a light blow, sending the man flying backward. So noisy. Kajon's voice was now filled with threat. That's enough. A vertical slash from the top of his head down to his body. The captain collapsed onto the pristine white snow, blood gushing out like a fountain, staining the ground. Leo, on the other hand, just stared at his own sword in confusion. I don't even know when I drew my sword. Kajon flicked his sword and complained. TSK. My clothes are all dirty. He slowly sheathed his sword. Leo had a worried expression. It's not just the kid Kajon himself. The sword chi radiating from his blade seemed to want to devour everything. He struggled to clutch his throat, panting heavily. No, it's worse than being cut. It feels like my throat could be slit at any moment. Spare me. The only one left alive repeatedly bowed his head to the ground, begging for mercy. We surrender. Kajan rested the sword on his shoulder with a smug expression. Really? What's your name? He stammered in reply. Yes. My name is Ura. His eyes suddenly brightened, but his face darkened. All right. Ura, do you have a rope? He answered decisively. Yes, I do. Kajan's next words made Leo pause for a moment. Hand it over. Yes. He used the rope Ura gave him to tie his own hands, and also his precious cousin. Leo was also tied up just like Kajon. Do we really need to go this far? I'm not saying we shouldn't tie them up, but do we really need to capture this guy and confiscate our weapons too? He tried to explain to make Leo understand better. I already told you, if we're going to be bait to lure them to their den, we have to act the part. If we look this healthy and are still holding our weapons, who's going to believe we've been kidnapped? The two walked behind, discussing, while Ura led the way in front. He swallowed nervously. Only then will the story of us being captured and escorted be believable. Otherwise, how could a guy like him drag the two of us along? It's completely absurd. Even if we are just kids. Kids. After speaking, Kajon suddenly called out, which startled him. So, on the way, let's get some more information out of him. Hey, Ura. Yes. He began to interrogate him. You're deserters. Right. Ura quickly answered in one breath. Yes. We were once part of the 1st Battalion, 9th Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division of the K.E.A.S. Kingdom, he said seriously. The Keys Kingdom. Must be from the southern battlefield. Kajon continued his interrogation. What's the head count? How many in total? Ura again provided all the information he knew, including a mage and 2 night escorts. We have a total of 130 men, he repeated with curiosity. A mage. Yes. After answering Kajon's question, Ura fearfully turned his head away. 130 deserters. Yes. Damn it. We bit off more than we can chew. I thought they were just 2 pampered noble brats who couldn't even tie a chicken. He was still lost in his thoughts and didn't hear his voice. Those eyes that emitted blue mana just now. A mage. You say. They must be descendants of the Reston family. The heart of the Oria's empire. This time it was Leo's turn to ask him, but even if you're deserters, why did you come all the way to the north? Who? About that, Ura answered in a trembling voice. The commander said he would help us earn enough money to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. Hearing his answer, Kajon immediately became suspicious. A mere infantry unit commander with a mage backing him. If their goal is money, why are they robbing in the dirt-poor territory of Baron Belos? While he was lost in thought, Ura suddenly let out a cry. Something's not right here. He abruptly stopped and turned to the two of them. We're almost there. Young masters. Kajon appeared calm while Leo looked extremely tense. Oh well, let's just go and see for ourselves. The 3 of them went to the base, where a few people were walking around on guard. From the top of the fortress, a loud voice called down. What's up? Did Ura really catch a hostage? Shut up. The 2 stood on top and questioned him repeatedly. Wait, where are the others? Why are you the only one back? And what's with all those weapons you're carrying on your back? He tilted his head up and answered calmly. What else? I confiscated them from these brats. This is my achievement alone now. Get lost. The rest are chasing after the guards of these brats who ran away. Now hurry up and open the gate. A guard shouted the command. Open the main gate. You're in a hurry, aren't you? Ura ignored the taunts and confidently walked inside. Excited at the thought of being praised by the captain, the guard on duty spoke in a bored tone. Right. It would have been better if you had brought the hostages back sooner. Ura didn't care, and just coldly told him to shut up. Shut up. Kajon walked behind, observing everything, and thinking to himself, this robber is so easy to bully, but what is this power I've been feeling? It's an indescribable energy. Ura's body was constantly sweating. For some reason, I've had a creepy feeling for a while now. Gylatin is also reacting. This couldn't be. Leo called out to Kajon worriedly. Kajon. What? What the hell is that? Before them was a dead crow pinned to a tall wooden pole. They offered up a sacrifice. There's no mistaking it. It's black magic. A magic circle suddenly lit up in the middle of the large courtyard. A black magician. In the distant territory of Baron Belos, the Baron's cough grew more intense. Rohan poured water, worriedly asking his father, "Father, are you okay?" He coughed and replied to his son, "I'm fine." He quickly handed him the glass of water. "Here, drink some water. It'll help. Thank you, son." The Baron tremblingly took the glass of water, his face showing exhaustion and pain. Rohan suddenly asked him worriedly, "Father, do you think those two young masters will be okay?" He stared at the glass and slowly replied, "Daring to send two young boys to our territory without any accurate information about the robbers. That's enough to know how much the Azure Sea Fortress trusts in their abilities. Moreover, that boy named Kajan." The Baron's eyes showed firm conviction and trust. "That boy reminds me of Duke Halo in his youth, not just in appearance, but also in his confident demeanor, along with his calm and magnanimous attitude. We can place all our hopes on those two boys." "Yes, Father, I understand." On the snowy mountain range, the lush green trees were covered in a blanket of white snow. Then, streaks of bright red blood splattered across the pristine white snow. Kajon swung his sword with force, delivering fatal blows to the people around him. His eyes gleamed. The corner of his mouth curled into a cruel smile. A grotesque magic formation suddenly appeared on the ground in front of the three of them. A strange groan came from within. "My sword. Cut the ropes, too." Kajon let out a confused "huh." Kajon looked at Leo and signaled, "Cousin, draw your sword." He was surprised. What?" He gripped Gylaton tightly. "You'll need it soon enough." He still didn't understand what was happening. "What do you mean?" From within the magic formation, a group of skeletons slowly rose. Standing tall in the courtyard, Kai gasped in terror, completely frightened. These monsters, 13 skeletons, fully armed with swords and shields, stood before the three of them. A voice rang out, hostages walking right into the trap themselves. "It seems heaven is on my side." From above, a row of archers took their positions. One in the middle stood arrogantly. "Welcome to my mountain fortress." He looked down on the three of them condescendingly. "You pampered noble brats." Kajon thought to himself, "I don't see the black magician. He must be hiding somewhere, chanting. They're still a tough bunch." Thinking that, he immediately placed Gylaton on Kai's neck. "If you make a move, I'll cut this one's throat. What do you think?" He flinched. Young master." Leo felt utterly humiliated. "What? Taking a hostage? Where did the honor of the nobility go?" The man on top looked down in silence, not saying a word, just smirking slightly. He was quite surprised by this scene. A noble taking a hostage. Aren't you the ones who value honor more than life? He smirked and pressed Gylaton closer to his neck. "So what? Can't I?" He trembled. "Young master." The other man gave a strained laugh. "You're quite the comedian. But you're mistaken. A worthless hostage is meaningless. That one is completely useless. Do whatever you want with him." Hearing that, Kajan just snorted in contempt. He slowly sheathed his sword, muttering, "Completely worthless." Yura, seeing him sheathe his sword, he let out a sigh of relief. "Me apologies." "Seal?" Leo asked cautiously. "Kajon, we're outnumbered. Do you have a plan? Don't tell me you're just going to charge in." He turned to look at him, smirking confidently. "Of course. Who do you think I am?" He confidently declared. "We just need to take down that commander, and this will be over." A mystical and powerful blue mana slowly emanated from Kajan's body. The man on top flinched when he felt it. Blue mana. Impossible. Kajan turned to look at Leo. "Cousin, I'll leave the rest to you." Leo asked back in confusion. "What did you say?" The mana exploded violently around him. He gripped Gylaton tightly. "I'll handle the commander myself." He shot forward, the mana swirling in the air. Aiming straight for the man, he screamed in panic, "Kayon!" But just then, a skeleton rushed forward and swung its axe down. He quickly parried the fatal blow. "Kajon, what in the world are you thinking?" A hint of worry appeared in Leo's eyes. "How am I supposed to fight this whole group of soldiers by myself?" Seeing Kajon rushing towards him, the captain hurriedly shouted the order. "Shoot! Shoot!" He laughed mockingly, his voice cold. Too late. He unleashed the sea wolf swordsmanship, severing the hands of all the archers below. Using the momentum, Kajan shot straight up into the air. The leader shouted, "You little brat! Are you looking to die? He just contemptuously swung his sword down. What a nuisance. In the blink of an eye, the man's right hand was cleanly severed by him. The man fell to his knees in pain. Screaming in agony and fury, Keijon landed right in front of him. He stepped closer. If you're going to attack, be a little faster. The man gritted his teeth. You bastard. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. The Azure Sea Fortress clearly doesn't have the spare forces to intervene in other territories. So why? He suddenly remembered something. About that. This Baron's territory is right next to my father's. Keijon reassured him. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I'll just drag you back to the Azure Sea Fortress. His eyes looked down with admiration. What? Not bad. Cousin. Down in the courtyard, Leo was single-handedly taking on all 13 formidable skeletons. He muttered to himself. That's right. The Sea Wolf's sword. Just crush them with your strength. The other man continued to threaten. Do you really think you'll leave here safely? At that moment, he looked straight into the man's face. You. What's your name? The man's forehead was beaded with sweat, his voice trembling. Michael. Michael Knox. The moment Michael finished speaking, Keijon plunged Gylaton into his leg without a moment's hesitation. The man screamed in excruciating pain, a blood-curdling cry that tore through the night. The archers above turned pale with fear, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. He smiled like a true madman. Order your men to drop their weapons now. The man hurriedly shouted. Drop your weapons. Hurry. He withdrew his sword. Good boy. I like that. Michael stared at him with sharp eyes. I can't believe we lost to a couple of kids. But when they arrive, even you won't be able to resist, even if you are from the Reston family. He looked down. It seems you still have room to grow. Keijon continued, while looking at Leo. Don't tell me you're counting on that black magician. He said contemptuously. You really think my family would only send 2 kids? After finishing off the skeletons, Leo wiped his sweat. The magic formation has disappeared. From behind, a massive explosion echoed. Cajon continued. Of course they would have a guardian. Right. The outer fence had been breached with a huge hole. Anyway, thanks to you, I've wasted my time and let the black magician escape. A slender female figure walked in. In her hand was someone's head, dripping with blood. It was Sabina. She walked in silently, her presence overwhelming. Leo was overjoyed to see her. Master. Kai's mouth fell open in astonishment. Oh, the black magician's head, she said coldly. Keijon Reston. Leo Reston. She evaluated the 2 of them. You let the most important piece of evidence slip away. As a result, the mission is a failure. Keijon clicked his tongue, then kicked Michael down. The man fell sprawling to the ground. He also jumped down. But Master likes it this way, doesn't she? Sabina seemed helpless, charging headfirst into the tiger's den. Just like your father, she threw the black magician's head to the ground. For that, I will acknowledge you as a worthy member of the Reston family, she continued. But the unexpected hostage-taking stunt will get you a demerit. He calmly sheathed Gylaton. Michael was terrified when he saw the black magician's head. She was suspicious. Why did you stage a hostage situation? Keijon explained. I wanted to attack their blind spot. Who would have thought a noble would take a hostage? Sabina nodded in agreement. I agree with you on that point. She looked up at the sky in exasperation. Keijon, I've never seen anyone like you. You're a true madman. He smiled. Thank you, Master. He trembled. These crazy people, are they really nobles? She ordered. Let's return to Lord Belos's castle. I have a lot of questions to ask. He obeyed. Yes, Master. Michael was terrified to the core. The Reston brats are a bunch of madmen. Subscribe to Miss Manhwa now, so you don't miss any more crazy developments. Inside the dungeon, a soldier holding a torch shouted, Hey, this way. Your family is here. A man rushed to the cell door and called out desperately. Isabel. The boy replied joyfully. Father. The 2 hugged tightly. The father sobbed. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. The boy trembled. Father. I was so scared, standing outside and witnessing the reunion. Keijon turned to look at Kai thoughtfully. He teased, feeling guilty. Who? He answered awkwardly. Well, a little. Keijon pushed Kai's shoulder. It's a little too early to feel guilty. Being thrown into the Baron's prison like your comrades is probably a bargain. He was startled. What? He explained further. You'll have to go to the Azure Sea Fortress with your boss. Kai was horrified. No way. Sabina walked over with her arms crossed. Kajon, is it okay not to tie him up? He obediently replied. Yes. For now. It's fine. We'll need someone to carry that guy to the Azure Sea Fortress anyway. She warned. But don't let your guard down. You hear? He hastily replied. Yes. My lady. The father from earlier asked. Seer. Will he be punished too? Kayun replied. In principle. He's also a robber. The other man was hesitant. May I be so bold as to say something? He actually took very good care of us while we were imprisoned. He even secretly brought medicine for the sick. Isabel also agreed. He gave his share of food to the hungry. Please show him mercy. She turned to ask, what do you think? Ka-yun, how should we handle this? He decided, for now, let's consider showing mercy. After all, he did lead us to their hideout. Kai was so moved that he knelt down. I will serve you faithfully for the rest of my life. Young master. Kajan was annoyed. I told you not to let your guard down. Leo called down from upstairs. Kajon, come up and see this. It's very interesting. He looked up in surprise, his face showing curiosity and intrigue. Kajan walked up the stairs to investigate. What's the matter? He pointed. Look at this. He entered the room, looking confused at the barrel that was emitting a mystical blue light. Kajon's eyes showed shock and wariness. This is magic stones. In the box were integrated crystals of a mystical black color. A while later, the robbers were led away. The villagers stood by the road cursing. Serves you right. You filthy robbers, Leo asked curiously. Kajon, the Lord will probably throw a luncheon for us. Right. He was annoyed when Kajon didn't answer. Kajon, are you listening? At that moment, he was deep in his own thoughts. Just as I thought. There's a reason why such a large group of robbers would hide in the remote mountains of this Baron Belos's territory. The Baron's family probably doesn't even know there's a magic stone mine in their territory. I don't know the quality of the stones yet, but the mere existence of the mine could bring in a huge profit. Leo looked at Kajon's expression and felt uneasy. What are you scheming now? Sabina reminded him. The Lord is here to greet us. Get ready. Rio welcomed them warmly from a distance. Welcome back, everyone. Someone ordered. Throw the prisoners in the dungeon. She spoke. Lord, we will be taking that man with us. The leader of the robber gang. You don't object, do you? He happily agreed. Yes, of course. My lady, there's something I'd like to request. Sabina replied indifferently. I'm only here as a guardian. Just talk to my students. Rio turned to look at Kajan and Leo. Well then, I have prepared a small feast. Shall we talk while we eat? He bluntly refused. Sorry, but we have to go to the Azure Sea Fortress immediately. Just say it now. Rio was a little surprised. Is that so? Actually, it's about the mission fee. Our territory currently doesn't have the ability to pay the commission fee to the Azure Sea Fortress. So I'd like to request a postponement of payment. Kajon's face was grim, which made Leo weary. That face again. He spoke calmly. I was wondering why the robbers chose to set up their base in the territory of Baron Belos. He was puzzled. What do you mean? Kajon criticized mercilessly. Just think about it. The territory of Baron Belos is a remote area with no local specialties. It's literally a backwater village. Right. Rio told himself. Endurate. Just endurate. It continued. As expected, what they were after was something else. He was bewildered. What do you mean? Kajon took out a magic stone. That's right. A magic stone. Did you know? Rio was horrified. Absolutely not. I had no idea there was a magic stone mine in my territory. He was smug. So I'd like to make a proposal. He asked back. A proposal. Kajon gave his opinion. Let's cooperate with the Azure Sea Fortress to develop this magic stone mine, on the condition that the Azure Sea Fortress will provide the initial capital and security forces. Rio thought in horror. Does this kid understand what he's saying? Not to mention the development of the mine. Just the cost of storage facilities and maintaining guards is already. Wait. Just having a family like the Restons hold a stake in our mine could bring great benefits. Perhaps he has calculated that I would think of all these things. No. But who gave this kid the guts to negotiate such a big issue on his own? He persisted. First of all, I will have to report back. But if the project is approved, the Seawolf Knight Order may be stationed here, which would boost the economy and solve the territory's defense problem in a heartbeat. What do you think? He sighed. So how much of the mine's shares does the ducal family want? Kajon smiled mischievously. That's something you should discuss with my father. After all, a child like me is not qualified to discuss business details. Rio nodded in agreement. I understand. I will discuss it with my father, he said politely. We will be in touch soon. Sabina stood silently, witnessing it all. She sighed thoughtfully. These children truly cannot be underestimated. Under the bright full moon, a clear voice suddenly rang out. Master, Kajon asked forthrightly, allow me to ask, why did you say things could get complicated back at the robbers' hideout? She replied calmly. About that, it's because of this one. Leo watched as Sabina lifted the bag in her hand. You mean the black magician you defeated? Master, she explained. This guy isn't just some petty black magician. He was confused. What do you mean? Master, Sabina explained. He is Ted de la Hana, a level 2 wanted criminal in the Empire, and a 6-ring black magician. Kajon was startled. A level 2 wanted criminal. She looked straight at him. That's right. A level 2 fugitive running rampant in the Empire's territory, along with deserters from the Southern Kingdom. Yet you and Leo were too busy dealing with the small fry to notice such an important matter. Right. Besides, people only grow stronger by fighting powerful opponents. If you had taken down the black magician first, you wouldn't have had to waste your time with the small fry. That's why I consider this mission a failure. Remember this, Kajon. He bowed his head sadly. Yes. Master. Leo felt left out. Why do I feel so excluded? Suddenly his name was called, and Leo too. He turned his head in surprise. Yes. Master. Is something the matter? Sabina praised him. You did better than I thought. This is your first time facing the undead. Right. You should be more confident in yourself, she advised gently. Leo stood up straight. Yes. Master. At the Azure Sea Fortress, a soldier's report rang out. The Lord has returned, Hirik respectfully said. Welcome back, family head. Halo began to probe the situation. Is there anything unusual? He reported back. The knights deployed in the west have returned. Young masters Leo and Kajon are currently returning from their mission in the territory of Baron Belos with Lady Sabina. Halo nodded in satisfaction. I see. Suddenly, someone ran up in a panic to report. Lord, he said coldly. What's all the commotion about? The subordinate presented a letter. This is a letter from the palace. Halo was stunned. A letter from the palace. His Majesty said nothing before I left the capital. He hurriedly opened it to see. Halo's eyes showed a loss of composure. He uttered each word with difficulty. This is elsewhere. A train was speeding along the tracks at a dizzying pace. Halo couldn't hide his worry. His Majesty is personally summoning Kajon to the capital. At this moment, he was sitting on the train, his hand on his chin, his eyes staring thoughtfully out the window. Under the dark night, at the pier, another train was slowly rolling away. He was carrying a weakened Michael on his shoulder with great effort. The trader asked, Is this the Azure Sea Fortress? The leader said contemptuously, Hey, don't tell me you believed what that kid said. You're going to prison too. Listen carefully if you want to survive. We have to wait until they let their guard down and, without letting him finish, he angrily punched him in the face and shouted, Shut up. You think I'm going to listen to someone who called me useless and deserving of execution? Leo heard the argument and wondered, What's wrong with him? Phi came up from behind and teased. It's as noisy as ever around you. Kajon. He walked over, put his arm around his shoulder, and said with a laugh, What a strange guy. Are you well? Sabina replied, I'm doing all right. Phi. It seems your brother is calling for you too. Phi stood up and replied, It must be because of the trouble this kid caused in the territory of Baron Belos. What a headache, she teased. You say that, but you look very proud. Suddenly Leo bowed politely. Are you well these days? Young master, he replied gently. I heard Leo did very well in the Duke's territory. The news even reached my ears. My brother must have heard about it too. He will be very happy. He scratched his head in embarrassment upon hearing the praise. Yes, Phi tactfully suggested. You must all be tired. Let's go up. He and Sabina slowed down to talk. She spoke first. Phi, the political situation in the Empire seems unstable. Do you know anything? He sighed and thought. Phi replied, The powerful families, besides us, are quickly forming alliances. With the Duchy of Sanmon and the Marquisate of Da'e at the center, Father has met with various noble families in the capital to grasp the situation, but it seems he cancelled everything after a not-so-pleasant conversation with His Majesty, the Duchy of Sanman and the Marquisate of Da'e. They were key figures in overthrowing the tyrant and putting the current emperor on the throne. Now they hold the main power in the empire. Sabina pondered for a moment. Brother withdrew from the center of power after the tyrant was dethroned. He believed it was for the best, for the future of the empire. But who would have thought we'd be treated like this now? She spoke with worry. It seems the era of peace is coming to an end. He also lamented, "That's right, whether we like it or not. It's time for our family to act." Sabina smiled slyly. "Perhaps what your son did will be to our advantage, giving us a legitimate reason to station troops on another family's territory and expand our influence. Your son is quite interesting. He did something beneficial for the family at just the right time." Fai scratched his head modestly. "You praise him too much. That's not a good thing," she replied contemptuously. "I wasn't praising you either. Don't be so narcissistic." The group went to Xerxes' location, and he immediately praised them. "Well done. I've heard about the achievements of the two young masters. You two have taken down a band of robbers consisting of deserters." Kajon pointed triumphantly. "The one being carried is their boss." Xerxes nodded. "I see. We will begin the interrogation while he's still breathing. We must get everything we can." Kajon, Han, standing behind, asked, "By the way, who is the one carrying the robber boss?" He turned his head in the direction of the hand and answered, That guy. He's also a robber. Take him away too," the traitor said urgently. "Sia," Kajon instructed, "but he's the messenger. Show him mercy and release him afterward. I'm thinking of using him as my personal servant." He agreed immediately. "I understand." He waved his hand enthusiastically. "Then, let's go inside and rest." Zara stopped him. "Your mission isn't over yet. You two need to submit a report. This is to review the mission and improve future performance." Kajon exclaimed in surprise. "Sir Xerxes, wait. Don't tell me we each have to write a separate one." He resolved the issue. "You two can write it together." He stopped joking. "Excellent. I've done all the heavy lifting. You write it." "Cousin." Leo was confused. "Wouldn't it be faster if we wrote it together?" Kajon put his arm around his shoulder affectionately. "Just think. Once the report is submitted, Uncle will see it too." "Right. Just focus on writing about your amazing efforts. This is a great opportunity to score points with him." He was suspicious. "Really? If my name appears too many times, it'll be counterproductive." Zira sighed helplessly. "Just proceed with the imprisonment." Han received the order. "Yes, Captain." Sabina walked over and tossed him a sack. "Xerxes, this is the head of a wanted man. Take care of it." He took it in surprise. She turned her back and added, "By the way, just consider the kid's report as mine as well." After that, everyone dispersed one by one. Kajon cheered. "Have fun writing." "Cousin," Leo asked. "Kayon, where are you going?" He replied, "The training room. I've reached the 4-star level. I can use it alone now." Xerxes smiled faintly. Just back from his first mission, and he's already heading straight to the training room. How can he be a 13-year-old boy? He looked at Kajon's defiant figure and marveled. A dignified voice echoed inside the palace. "The reason I have summoned everyone so late at night is due to information gathered during the hunt. Recently, more and more monsters have been appearing around the Azure Sea Fortress." Hirik, upon hearing this, he bowed respectfully. "Yes, family head." Halo gave the order. "Summon the Knight Captains." Hirik replied. "Yes." Zedas reported. "I have brought the item you requested." Family head. "Is this it?" He took it and examined it meticulously. This is a piece of skin taken from a monster that appeared in the western grain basket region. At first glance, it appears to be quite ordinary. Halo unfolded it for everyone to see. His voice became more serious. "But the dark chi in this piece of skin is anything but ordinary. It is the black magic of the tyrant. A forgotten one." Upon hearing those shocking words, Raphael's face instantly froze, his eyes wide with terror. Theo was no better. He was so horrified that his face turned dark. Phi uttered each word in a panic. "Father, the tyrant has been gone for a long time. If his black magic is present in the monsters, that means..." Halo interjected. "There are two possibilities. Either it's his lingering evil will left in this world, or the tyrant is still alive somewhere. Either way, My conclusion is that it is related to what is happening inside the Empire. However, it seems the news of what happened in the territory of Baron Belos has reached His Majesty's ears. He has summoned Kajan to the capital immediately. He was stunned to hear those words. His face also showed some tension and was extremely solemn. Halo crossed his arms. But I can't send Kajan to the palace alone. I plan to send Leo and the Azure Wolf Knight Order with him. Of course, that's only if he agrees to go. At this moment, Phi was still stunned. He added, if he doesn't want to, I won't force him. He wondered, are there no other problems? Halo instructed his son. It will be fine. He is still just a child. More importantly, I need to know what he was thinking when he made that deal with the young Baron Belos. Xeris, bring Kajan here. He obeyed. Yes. Family head. Under the moon and cool breeze. The air became unusually quiet, signaling that something was amiss. Kajan was sitting in meditation, cultivating his magic with great seriousness. His body was absorbing energy. His voice echoed outside. When did you arrive? Xeris leaned against the wall with his arms crossed and replied, I just got here. I'm surprised you noticed. Kajan slowly stood up. I heard that only family members and Sir Xeris are allowed in here. But I've never seen you in this training room. It must be something urgent for you to come all this way to find me. Right. Hearing his speculation, he remained silent for a long time. Then he slowly spoke. It seems, young master, that you will have to go to the capital soon. Kajan was surprised, his face bewildered as he asked in confusion. The capital? For what? Zedas replied. The family head has summoned you to a family meeting. You will hear more details from the family head himself. After that, the two walked together without saying another word. A servant opened the door and reported to the person inside. Young Master Kajon has arrived. Halo was sitting in a chair, his hand on his chin, and replied, I heard you just successfully completed your first mission. The young boy bowed obediently. Yes, my respected grandfather. The old master's eyes suddenly darkened. Carrying the authority of an emperor, I have summoned you here because of the shocking events in the Belos territory. You are not yet qualified to represent the family in major deals. Why did you make a deal with the Belos family on your own? Karen secretly swallowed. I thought I would be rewarded for my accomplishment this time, but instead, I'm getting a lecture. His voice became stern. Don't you think your arrogant attitude has severely damaged the honor of the Belos family? Karen replied forthrightly. No, family head. That's not the case at all. I simply made a fair deal with the future Baron of the Belos family, and he happily accepted the offer. I believe there is something more sacred and important than cumbersome noble etiquette. Lord Halo was slightly astonished. What could that be? After all, what could be more important than etiquette for a noble lineage? Karan's eyes gleamed with a steadfast light. He declared forthrightly, It is honor. The 4 words, rest in family, echoed like thunder, causing all eyes in the room to turn to the young man. Lord Halo leaned forward slightly. Shaken by the unexpectedly sharp answer, Halo looked at Karen with a look of admiration. In terms of the economic value of the contract, the boy could have used it to boast about his achievements, but he chose to prioritize the family's interests above all else. A truly admirable display of cunning and loyalty, well deserving of a like. And subscribe to Miss Manhwa. Don't you think? The others in the room also looked at him, silently reassessing this grandson, who they thought only knew how to cause trouble. Karen glanced back. The wariness in the other two's eyes was still strong. At that moment, the old master's voice spoke. All right, the agreement you brought back will bring immense profits to our family. Phi, my son, you will take over the final negotiations on my behalf. Letting this father bask in some of his son's glory isn't a bad thing. Is it? Phi replied respectfully. Yes, father. I will leave for the Belos territory tomorrow morning. Halo wearily rubbed his forehead and slowly opened another letter. Now, let's talk about the secret letter from His Majesty. The Emperor has summoned you personally. It seems your fame has traveled 1,000 miles to the royal palace. Karen pondered. Garrus said the Emperor's letter arrived at the Azure Sea Fortress before grandfather returned. Is the Royal Intelligence Network really that terrifying? No. The current Emperor is actually nothing more than a puppet. This must be the information network of the wealthy nobles pulling the strings behind him. Immediately after, the grandfather and grandson looked at each other, each with their own thoughts. Halo's voice suddenly softened in comfort. Karen, if you really don't want to, you don't have to force yourself to go. He could easily guess. This boy must have understood the true meaning of this trip to the capital. The nobles in the capital want to test his strength. Perhaps staying in the shadows would be better. So it's fine if he doesn't go. Phi looked up at his father, the corners of his mouth curling into a faint smile. Father, you don't need to give him a choice like that. Why is that? Karen suddenly spoke up. His Majesty, the Emperor, has personally summoned me. Of course I must obey. Besides, it's been a long time since I visited my maternal grandfather. But will I have to go alone? Cousin Leo also participated in this mission with me. Halo explained in detail. If you have decided to go, then of course Leo will also accompany you. In addition, Han's elite squad will personally escort the two of you. Karen was surprised. With grandfather there, do we really need such a large escort? Lord Halo brutally doused him with cold water. I'm not worried about your safety. I'm worried about what other earth-shattering trouble you two little devils will get into. Karen was speechless. Yes. The old master waved his hand in dismissal. You two may leave. You will depart for the capital in 3 days. The young boy bowed in obedience. Yes, grandfather. Under the warm morning sun, Rio's voice rang out with solemnity. I believe we can conclude the negotiations here. My Lord Duke, I sincerely thank everyone for their efforts and cooperation. As soon as the meeting ended, Phi immediately spoke up. Young Baron Belos, does your father know about these generous terms? The young man nodded resolutely. Of course. My lord, my father is also in complete agreement with them. Phi began to analyze further. The mine shares are divided 80 for Reston and 20 for Belos. With the enormous profits from the magic stones, even a small portion is a formidable economic power, but I still can't understand the clause that grants 5% of Belos's shares to Charon and Leo. Isn't that far too disadvantageous for your family? It's undeniable that the two children have excellently fulfilled your request. But this is clearly an overly generous reward, graduating with honors from the Royal Academy. You must have your own reasons for this decision. An overly generous reward. Don't you think so? Rio calmly admitted. It's an investment to win the favor of the two young wolves, Karen and Leo. Upon hearing this, Phi fell silent. He isn't even trying to hide his ambition. The young man continued to explain. The Belos family is making a gamble on the future. One day, one of those two youths will become the supreme leader of the great Azure Sea Fortress. Phi couldn't help but be amazed to be this confident in the potential of two kids. He then said, Is that so? A truly bold decision. Baron Belos has indeed raised an outstanding heir. Rio smiled modestly. I dare not compare myself to you. Duke Phi, then let's see how the children react. Upon hearing his name, Karen put on a cunning face. Of course we. Leo shivered at that smile. Oh God. He's smiling like that again. The young boy quickly expressed his joy. We are very honored to accept. We hope that in the future, both sides will continue to maintain this strong cooperative relationship. The young man also replied politely to Karen. It is an honor for us to cooperate with such a great and respected family. A while later, on the windy deck of the ship, Leo asked quietly, Hey Karen, I have something to ask you. How should we divide the 5% share we just received fairly? Charon casually uttered a sentence that made Leo's face turn pale. Of course. It's 9 for me and 1 for you. Leo immediately retorted. Why do you get the bigger share? The little boy growled. What? Karen moved closer, holding up his fist in front of Leo. Have you grown a backbone lately? Cousin. To dare to speak to me in that tone. He stammered in fear. No. Of course you deserve the 9 parts. The little boy threatened further. If you dare to go back on your word later, you'll have to answer to me. Understand? Leo nodded his head vigorously in fear. All right. Phi witnessed the scene from a distance, stroking his beard and chuckling to himself. These two kids used to bicker like this all the time when they were young, but now they are as close as 2 peas in a pod. He smiled warmly, his affectionate gaze following the two children. Leo exclaimed in delight. I can't believe it. We're about to see the magnificent capital. I've only ever heard stories about it. I don't know anything. What should I do now, Karen? From inside the room, Karen's voice called out, Cousin, can you please stop acting like a country bumpkin? Leo plopped down on the chair opposite Karen, continuing to ramble. We're about to have an audience with His Majesty the Emperor. A little bit of drama won't kill anyone. Oh, right. He covered his face, a dreamy expression on it. We'll get to attend lavish social parties. Right. I've heard there are countless beauties in the capital. Dacus. Karen sighed in exasperation. He doesn't even care. Just then, A charming voice came from the window. Sabina once said that Dacus is a very interesting place, crowded and full of powerful warriors. Leo jumped and turned around. Master, how did you get on the roof? She didn't bother to answer his question and just commented, it will be an unforgettable experience. Sabina gracefully landed from the window. Approaching the table. Don't you have any wine glasses? I came to celebrate your first successful mission. Leo quickly stood up to offer his seat, while Karen replied, Master, are you really looking for a wine glass in a 13-year-old's room? I only have drinking cups. She picked up the cup and declared nonchalantly, as long as it can hold good wine. Any cup will do. Saying so, she gave each of them a cup. I'll temporarily overlook Karen's matter, since he steals my wine and drinks it like water anyway. Leo took the glass, surprised by Sabina's revelation. Seeing this, she asked if he had ever drunk wine before. Leo honestly confessed that Karen had let him taste it a few times. If you also want to experience such interesting stories, please like and support us. Sabina sighed after hearing this. So he has dragged you into being an accomplice too. Karen chuckled. Getting punished together is always more fun. Right. Despite her words, Sabina still filled Leo's glass with wine. Here. Take it. Wine personally gifted by your master. Don't be shy. She also poured a full glass for Karen and said gently, you both have grown up exceptionally well. Karan didn't hesitate to flatter her. It's all thanks to Master Sabina's dedicated teaching. After pouring the 2 glasses, Sabina slammed the wine bottle on the table. My promise to my brother is now fulfilled. She felt a little regretful that she couldn't witness the chaos these 2 little devils were about to cause in the capital. Leo called out, his voice choked with emotion. Master. Then he teared up. I heard you're returning to the distant North Sea soon. Does that mean we won't have a chance to see you again? Karen could only sigh at his behavior. Seeing the little boy's sentimental attitude, Sabina teased. How are you going to talk to the arrogant ladies in the capital if you're so weepy? She didn't forget to warn Leo. If you get a chance to attend a banquet, it's best not to get too close to Karen. They were both bewildered. Leo confusedly asked what she meant. Sabina pointed out bluntly. Just look at Karen's romantic looks. Outstanding talent. And smooth-talking mouth. Can't you guess what the scene will be like? That would be the sight of noble young ladies swarming around Karen like bees to honey. The mere thought of it made Leo shudder in fear. He moved closer, shaking Karen's shoulder. I'm begging you. Don't stand in the way of my love life. Karen shouted angrily. Where is your mind going? You love-struck fool. Seeing the children being noisy, Sabina ordered, be quiet and drink. Karan chimed in. That's right, cousin. Stop talking nonsense. Cheers. Leo happily agreed. All right. Under the flickering candlelight and the enveloping silence of the night, Lord Halo sat alone, lost in thought with a glass of wine. A steady knock came from the door. Father, it's Phi. Come in. Son. Phi entered and said respectfully, you sent for me. Phi, I heard the negotiations with the Bellows family ended very well. The old lord seemed surprised that they would concede a portion of the mine's shares to Karen and Leo. Phi also acknowledged that the young baron's decision carried a lot of weight. He added, he called it an investment in the family's future. The old lord nodded in approval. Baron Bellows has raised a sharp heir, Halo concluded. Anyway, everything went smoothly. Having another strong ally is not a bad thing. He solemnly entrusted to Phi. From now on, I will give you full authority to handle all matters related to the Bellows family. Phi replied seriously. I will not disappoint you. He poured a glass of wine and handed it to his son. Here, take it and drink. I am grateful. Father. Phi realized that his father probably had something else to say, as he was usually a man of few praises. Could it be related to Karen's trip to the capital? As he predicted, Halo spoke. Phi, as you know, His Majesty has never personally summoned any member of our family, except for me. It continued. In that respect, Karen's trip to the capital this time is a very unusual event. Phi thought to himself, it really is about Karen. Halo also revealed a shocking secret. During their last private meeting, he had seen extreme fear in His Majesty's eyes when facing him. The old lord continued. That fear stems from the terror that I could depose him, just as I did with the previous tyrant. And that is also why I suspect the hand of another power is involved here. Phi asked directly, you believe there is a sinister political conspiracy behind this? I am certain of it. Phi analyzed. Considering the complex political situation in the capital, where powerful families are secretly fighting amongst themselves. Then he asked, "You must have been able to refuse right then." "Right. But in the end, you didn't." The old man replied in a low voice. "You are right." He continued to probe. "So what was the reason you changed your mind?" "Father, the main reason is," Halo declared that he wanted to witness Karen's true abilities firsthand, which greatly surprised Phi. According to him, Karon is the one chosen by Gulotin, the holy sword of our great family's founder, which means that whether he likes it or not, fate has destined Karon to be at the center of the family. Not only that, as a member of the Reston family, Karen must certainly learn to face conspiracies from outside forces. Phi's heart tightened. His precious son would have to face countless dangers. Lord Halo coldly replied, "That is precisely why I did not refuse to inherit the family's throne. He must bear the weight of the crown." Then, he turned to look directly into his son's eyes. "Or are you the one who is afraid?" Phi said nothing, decisively tilting his head back and downing the strong wine in his hand. The old master's gaze softened slightly. He could only sigh without saying another word. Just then, Phi took the initiative to break the silence. "Father, I trust him." He declared in a firm voice that he had absolute faith in Karen. Seeing his son's unshakable resolve, the old master said no more. He only let out a soft sigh, and then a contented smile. "You trust your son." An answer could not be more perfect. As the first rays of dawn broke, Sabina and her loyal steed had already begun their journey back to the north. Garrus asked if Sabina intended to see the two children off for a part of the way. She thought for a moment, and then bluntly refused. She had had a memorable time last night sharing Xeris's precious wine with them, and he could only feel helpless. Not expecting her to not even spare him on the last night, Sabina added, "Moreover, the children will be busy today preparing for their trip to the capital. It's best to leave quietly like the wind." Sabina leaped onto her horse and said goodbye. "I look forward to the day we meet again. Xeris," he also replied in a loud voice. "By then I will surely have prepared even more jars of fine wine." Sabina's sharp gaze suddenly spotted a familiar figure watching her from a high floor. It was none other than Karen. The young boy bowed his head slightly as a farewell gesture. She also smiled back with a meaningful look. No more words were spoken. She tightened the reins. "Then see you again, Xeris." Sabina had left Karon a short letter. "I will now return to the North Sea. That place is like a second home to me. Therefore, you can come find me there whenever you wish. I will be waiting for you with the finest wines." Karen smiled as he recalled those words, silently watching Sabina's figure disappear over the horizon. He also couldn't have imagined that she would set off for the distant North Sea with just such a hasty message. Karen thought to himself, now that Master is gone, he guessed that his uncles would start to make their move. Just then, his name was called. The one who called out was Theo. "I heard your master has left." Karen couldn't help but frown in surprise. "Speak of the devil, and he shall appear." On the day of departure, the old butler's voice echoed across the courtyard. "Have all the young master's luggage been loaded onto the train?" "Yes." "Butler, and their formal and casual attire. You haven't forgotten anything, have you?" "Yes, sir. We have packed everything carefully." Karen heard Xeris's order and approached him. "Sir Xeris, do we need to be this ostentatious?" Xeris explained that the two of them were representing the face of the entire family for an audience with His Majesty. So this was mandatory. "Well, that's true. But," Han interjected, "because you two could cause trouble at any time." Karen immediately snapped. "Shut up, Han." Karen looked at the large group of guards and felt annoyed. There are too many troublesome people following us. Back to before. After Sabina left, Theo took the initiative to find Karan. "Good morning, young master. Are you well?" "Good morning." Theo asked if they were about to depart for the capital. Karen replied, "His Majesty, the Emperor himself, has summoned us." Before he could finish, Theo interrupted. "Karen, may I say something?" Theo sternly warned Karen not to behave as rudely in the capital as he had at the Azure Sea Fortress. "You understand what I mean, so I won't explain further." "Yes." Karan knew full well that Theo was openly admitting to having spied on him all this time. He threatened further. "There are countless enemies lurking to divide our family in the capital. If you give them any excuse, then I, Theo, will personally punish you most severely." The little boy just smirked and replied, "Thank you for your golden words. I will definitely not disappoint your expectations." Then Theo turned and left. "All right, then I wish you a safe journey." "Yes. See you." Karan watched his retreating back without giving it another thought. He just let out a cold laugh. You dare to threaten to punish me severely, trying to bring me down just for the title of eldest son. I will make that arrogant face of yours contort with horror. Karan continued to watch Theo's back and said to himself, just you wait. At that moment, an announcement came from the train. We are ready to depart. Karen pointed straight at Han and warned, Han, if you dare to cause trouble, I won't let you off. Han quickly spoke up. Actually, I have something to say. Just then, Kai came running from a distance. Young master, what's the matter? He profusely thanked Karen for giving him a chance to start over. About that. Karen grinned and announced, I'm taking you to the capital to throw you in the royal prison. What? I told you not to push your luck. Just then, someone informed Han that everyone had boarded the train. Han quickly bid farewell to Xerus. Commander, I'm leaving. Karan was still teasing Kai. Young master, please don't abandon me. We'll see about your attitude. Xerus sternly instructed. You two, don't cause trouble in the capital and return safely, Karen said sarcastically. With such detailed instructions, people might think we're professional troublemakers, Xerus bluntly retorted. Old habits die hard. Karen could only click his tongue and let it go. Just as he set foot on the train steps, a familiar voice called out again. Phi came running from a distance. Karan. Wait. Son. Wait a moment. Karen looked at his father in astonishment. You're at the Azure Sea Fortress. Phi was sweating profusely, his breath coming in short gasps. Your grandfather summoned me here. No. More than that. He said he wanted to see him one last time before his son left. Those warm words momentarily stunned Karen. Phi added, Oh right. Your maternal grandfather in the capital is also eagerly awaiting your arrival day and night. Karen replied cheerfully. I'm also very much looking forward to seeing him again soon. Phi smiled gently. I bet your grandfather has a mountain of gifts waiting for you. Phi's large hand gently patted his son's shoulder. Karen. Phi's voice was very gentle but also contained a firm resolve. Return safely. My son, if you do get into trouble, try to keep it down a bit. Hearing that, if you guys don't like and support Miss Manhwa, it would be a waste. Leo chuckled upon hearing this, and Karen glared at him. What are you laughing at? Theo sat quietly in his study, his gaze distant as he looked out the window. He closed the book in his hand and muttered softly, Those kids are gone. Theo's face hardened. He had just received a secret report that the second prince's wife was plotting something earth-shattering in the capital. Theo coldly ordered his subordinate, Do not get involved in that matter. At the same time, the train finally departed. As soon as he settled in, Karen eagerly asked, Exactly when will we arrive? Han, how much longer until the capital? Han replied softly, About 6 more hours. Young master, we will be passing through the autonomous territory of Zerbs, the Zerbs territory. According to Leo, Zerbes is a unique city where commoners have the right to elect their own mayor, and it developed based on trade and industry rather than agriculture. It is the largest artery of currency circulation in the entire empire. Han continued, because there, money means power and social status. Their enormous wealth allows them to exert great political influence in the empire, so other lords must always be wary of them. Karen thought for a moment and said, I heard that sometimes people flee to autonomous territories to escape the rule of tyrannical lords. Yes, but they have a very friendly relationship with our Azure Sea Fortress. According to Han, they sometimes even give lucrative contracts to the Sea Wolf Knight Order. Hearing this, Karen became interested. If he had the chance, he would love to visit this place once. Just as the train announced that it was about to enter the Zerbs territory, he even planned to sneak off for a visit after his schedule was finished. An idea that Leo immediately and enthusiastically supported. Just then, Karen sensed an unusual surge of energy. The demon sword Gulotin on his back suddenly vibrated violently. A cold surge of mana spread throughout his body. The holy sword was warning him, which could only mean one thing. It had detected a deadly threat. He looked at the sword in his hand and speculated. Could Theo or Raphael have been reckless enough to plant someone among the servants? He continued to analyze the situation. No, they are not stupid enough to act so openly. Just then Han called out to him. He thought for a moment. If that's the case, Karen immediately ordered Han. Contact the commander at the best immediately. Who? Why so suddenly? Karen shut up. His voice sharp. There's no time to explain. Alert the other carriages to prepare for battle. Although Han didn't understand what was happening, He followed his orders without question. Han quickly relayed the alarm to all the guards, ordering them to prepare for an impending attack. Karen felt that if the threat was external and not internal, how on earth could they attack a train moving at high speed? A mysterious figure stood from a distance, holding a coil of rope. The man was completely covered from head to toe, his sharp gaze fixed on the approaching train. He ordered his subordinate in a hoarse voice. "Begin." The subordinate received the order and immediately acted. They intended to ignite the explosives planted on the tracks to turn the train into a moving tomb. Seeing the train getting closer, the leader growled, "They're coming. Hurry up." The subordinate looked at the fire spreading towards the explosive barrels. "It's done. See ya. Everyone, brace yourselves for the terrifying explosion." "Yes, sir." The train was now very close, its front just a few fragile meters from the fuse. A massive explosion erupted, shaking the entire region and causing birds to scatter in panic. In the Zerb's territory, the atmosphere in the meeting room was as hot as a frying pan. "The national tax collectors are trying to push us into a corner," another merchant yelled back. "Who's to blame? But you fools for getting caught red-handed with your money laundering." The argument between the two sides grew more intense. "What? It's our fault. Are you so clean then? Who do you think you're pointing your finger at?" The old mayor could only hold his head in exasperation. "You have to deal with these criminals immediately." "What? Who are the criminals?" He sighed wearily. "I should have retired peacefully after my term as Minister of Finance. Why did I get myself into this thankless job of being a mayor?" The aide standing beside him could only bow his head silently. The illusion of a magnificent city shattered amidst the endless shouting. "So you high and mighty nobles are shameless enough to steal our right to bid on magic stones? What? You commone. Watch your mouth." This scene was no different from a miniature battlefield between commoners and nobles. The mayor could only rub his throbbing forehead. What in the world is this mess? Just then, the meeting room door suddenly burst open and someone rushed in. All eyes turned to the person who had just whispered something in the mayor's ear. "I see." After hearing the report, he signaled for his subordinate to leave. "Yes, Mayor?" a noble impatiently asked. What urgent news could interrupt such an important meeting? Could it be that those annoying tax inspectors have come here again? He just lazily lit a cigarette and calmly replied, "Don't worry. The tax inspectors are just a minor issue now." The entire room immediately broke into an uproar at that statement. "What do you mean by that? Has the inspection been cancelled?" The mayor exhaled a puff of white smoke and smirked. "No, not exactly. But just forget about the tax inspection." The man opposite him looked extremely curious. What in the world happened?" He solemnly announced that just 5 minutes ago, the Reston family's train on its way to the capital had encountered a terrible explosion. It is rumored that the young masters of the Reston Duchy were all on that fateful train. Another person screamed in panic. "What nonsense are you talking about?" The mayor just glanced at him. "What am I saying?" Then he decisively stubbed out his still-burning cigarette in a glass of red wine. "What else could it be? We're all about to die together." Amidst the desolate scene, the carriage bearing the Karin emblem lay half overturned, black smoke still billowing from the wreckage. Karen slowly opened his eyes, trying to regain his composure after the terrifying shock. He staggered to his feet and looked around. Han was already standing steadfastly in front of him. Next to him were Leo and the remaining guards. "Are you injured anywhere?" "Young master." "No. I just have minor scratches." Han immediately ordered everyone to report the situation urgently. Voices rang out in rapid succession. A total of 11 casualties. 1 seriously injured and 2 with minor injuries. The seriously injured victim is Dan. In another carriage, 2 more fatalities were recorded. Karen heard Ura's report. "It seems the situation has become extremely serious." Karen asked Han about the current location of the group. Han immediately replied that they were stranded about 10 kilometers from the autonomous territory of Zobets. He also added that he had managed to contact the territory before Karen and Leo woke up, so reinforcements should be on their way by now. Han also instructed that while his team held off the enemy, the 2 young masters should take the opportunity to run as far away as possible. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" "Young master." Karen completely ignored Han's words, his eyes fixed on his sword. Guillotine was reacting violently, which could only mean one thing. Karen caught a glimpse of a foot outside the wrecked carriage. He immediately tightened his grip on his sword in a defensive stance. "The enemy is attacking." Karen decisively drew his sword from its scabbard. Only then did he slowly reply to Han. "I'm sorry, but I can't do as you say." "Han, The loyal knight was stunned to hear him say that. Seer, why can't you? Karen slowly explained his thoughts. They have dared to destroy the railway, His Majesty's precious property. Their crime is no different from high treason. How far do you think we can run? My cousin's leg is also injured. Karen turned to ask Leo if he could still fight. Leo just silently tightened his grip on his sword and nodded once. Then there's only one path left. Right. With that, Karen lunged forward in a lightning-fast attack before the enemy outside could react. The unfortunate man's foot was immediately inflicted with a deep wound by Karen's blade. The young boy stood inside the carriage, his eyes gleaming with a deadly light. Looking down at the man, kneeling at his feet, he let out a powerful roar. Kill them all. Then mercilessly finished off the man writhing before him. The leader of the mercenaries just watched silently. With no intention of interfering, the three of them stepped out of the carriage with defiance, facing the large crowd. There are more of them than we thought. The voice of the guard captain rang out. Team 2. Advance. Protect the young masters. Immediately, an elite squad rushed out to confront them. Their numbers roughly equal to the enemy's. Han gave a quick assessment of the enemy. Young Master Karen. These men are all elite warriors of level 3 and above. Moreover, that leader, all eyes turned to the commander. He was a formidable level 6 elite warrior. The leader finally spoke in his hoarse voice. Karen Reston. Drop your weapons and surrender obediently. Karen immediately realized that his voice had been greatly distorted by magic. Seeing him make no move, he continued, If you cooperate obediently, we will graciously spare the lives of your knights and servants. Karen just turned to ask Han. Their target is me. You know what that means? Right. Han showed a hint of worry and quickly spoke up. Impossible. Young master, you absolutely cannot do that. Without giving anyone a chance to react, Karen confidently stepped forward. Why not? They are no match for me. Han could only hold his forehead in exasperation as he watched Karen's back move forward. What a troublesome young master. Han quickly ordered all the soldiers to gather, forming a tight protective circle around Karen. As quick as lightning, Karen had already seriously injured one of the enemy soldiers who was advancing threateningly. Both sides let out a roar and charged at each other in a chaotic mess. A lightning-fast battle broke out. The air filled with the ear-piercing sound of clashing metal. Karen seemed to be thoroughly enjoying this bloody battle. He showed no fear before anyone, even loudly challenging them all to come at once. The mercenaries still hesitated, not daring to advance. Then I'll come to you. One of them cursed under his breath. Damn it. That kid is no ordinary opponent. The person next to him agreed. I know. This wasn't in the contract. The leader then looked straight at Karen and growled an order. Everyone, get out of my way. His eyes held a deep, unfathomable look. But he then declared that he would take care of Karen himself. Karen showed amusement. Oh, so the final boss has finally decided to show himself. Suddenly, a familiar figure shot forward, surprising Karen. Han. Han stood right in front of the leader and said sternly, He is a very difficult opponent. Young master, please step back. The leader showed no mercy. You're just looking for death. You petty knight, Han replied with an unwavering resolve. We'll see about that. The two immediately clashed. Han fearlessly took the initiative and attacked him. The leader also showed no hesitation, calmly waiting for the knight's attack. The two figures clashed fiercely. The sound of clashing metal was ear-piercing. The leader suddenly noticed something unusual and glanced around. Han didn't miss the opportunity and immediately unleashed a thunderous blow. But he was easily dodged. Despite putting all his strength into it, Han could still feel that his opponent was much stronger. Han realized that his fatal blow had been deliberately deflected. The leader just moved strangely, and Han was astonished by his technique. Han quickly realized a horrifying truth. Could this be a 6-star knight from the Baba Kingdom? Sun Hakimi. Han stared at him, his mind in turmoil, not understanding why a knight from the Baba Kingdom would appear in the Empire, especially when the two had a non-aggression pact. After a moment of thought, Han became even more puzzled as to why they were targeting Karen. As the Baba Kingdom and the Reston family had no grudges against each other, pushing aside his rambling thoughts, Han decided to find out later. Anyway, the battle was now completely in their favor. The soldiers, Leo, and Karen were all wiping out the vermin. A truly spectacular battle. If you enjoyed it, please give Miss Manhwa a like and subscribe. Just as he was lost in thought, Han suddenly saw him preparing to attack again. He quickly raised his sword, just in time to block the sudden and dangerous attack. He sneered sarcastically. You have time to be distracted. You petty knight. Han was no less, immediately retorting sharply. Your formation has completely collapsed. Son Hakimi. Han quickly launched a barrage of counterattacks, forcing the leader to retreat defensively. The two were evenly matched, so Han told him that this resistance was futile, and to surrender quickly. The other man looked skeptical at Han's words. You say my formation has collapsed. He glanced behind him. All his subordinates had been wiped out by our forces. I see. So that's how it is. Han continued to persuade him. If you surrender, we will at least spare your life. You don't have to die in a foreign land. But he replied that he had no intention of reasoning with those who didn't understand. Therefore, I will just focus on completing my mission. Han was horrified to see his eyes turn bloodshot. He used mana counter, quickly launching a barrage of attacks at the knight. Han became more serious than ever. Seeing this scene, he thought, could it be that he has no intention of returning alive? Han immediately became extremely tense. At this rate, not only would it be impossible to capture him alive, but even the young masters would be in danger. Unless Han himself also risked releasing all of his own mana, he looked like a flaming dragon, madly attacking Han. Han slowly closed his eyes, preparing to release his mana when Karen suddenly spoke. Han, I'm a little disappointed in you. Just as Han's mana was released, but somehow Karen had appeared right behind the enemy. Didn't you come with me to stop me from causing trouble? The leader immediately noticed his presence. Karen officially joined the battle. He said to Han, and yet you were about to give up. His attack suddenly shifted to him. Karen Reston. He leisurely replied to him, that's right. I am Karen Reston. A decisive sword flash, and his sword arm was severed. His arm fell to the ground with his sword right in front of Han. The leader grew even more furious, gritting his teeth and growling his name. Karen Reston, you are truly a monster. Karen burst out laughing. Are you praising me? Thank you. But, at that moment, he frowned at the sword in his hand. The severing blade suddenly vibrated with unusual intensity. He knew well that its vibration meant there was still some threat. You bastard. What other tricks do you have up your sleeve? Han also frowned. He felt a wave of uneasy anxiety rising. A strange killing intent suddenly enveloped the man. I have no grudge against you. I'm sorry. Karen Reston. Karen was still suspicious of whether he had any other tricks. Just then, Han noticed something unusual. He quickly shouted, a whole team, focus on protecting young Master Leo. Leo still didn't understand what was about to happen. He stared blankly at the chaotic scene before him. The entire squad immediately rushed forward, forming a tight circle to protect him. Han also rushed towards Karen in a panic. Young Master Karen. An extremely powerful surge of energy suddenly erupted from his body. Karen didn't understand what was happening and asked, Han, what is this? Why are you doing this? Han quickly explained that the leader was using a self-destruct spell to end his own life. It's because I was too incompetent. I sincerely apologize. Young Master Karen. Even Karen couldn't have imagined that he would choose self-destruction. At this moment, the deadly energy radiated more strongly than ever. Han prayed, "Shoi beg you, please try to survive." Right after that sentence, another earth-shattering explosion occurred. Han could only watch as the terrifying explosion began to unfold. In the dead of night, a strange voice suddenly rang out. What a foolish master. It's been a long time since I've tasted a knight's blood, so I'll help you this once. The voice continued to echo aimlessly. If you don't want to be blown to bits, close your eyes tight. Han vaguely heard someone calling his name. Han, wake up. Karen kicked him squarely. How long are you going to lie there? Seeing that indifferent attitude, Han replied angrily, You damn brat. I wasted my effort protecting you. Han's whole body was still aching from the explosion. Seeing this, Karen snapped. Did I ask you to save me? Just then, the mysterious voice spoke again. If it weren't for me, things wouldn't have been this easy. Karen curiously raised the sword in his hand, and the voice continued. You were this close to not having a single piece of flesh left on your bones, so you should be grateful. Hey kid, are you listening to me? Karen realized that the sword in his hand not only could talk, but was also extremely chatty. Karen began to wonder if this was indeed a legendary demon sword.